Welcome, dear listener. It's time to settle in, let the rain wash over you, and pull those blankets up tight. Tonight I'll guide you through chilling tales best enjoyed in the glow of moonlight. Before we begin, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from and what time the night finds you. If there's a story you're hoping to hear, don't hesitate to let me know. Now, are you ready to journey into the shadows? I had just turned 27 and was nursing a broken heart when I first ventured into the dark web. My relationship had ended abruptly, leaving me feeling lost and lonely. Seeking solace, I turned to the anonymous depths of the internet, hoping to find someone who could understand my pain. It was during one of these late-night browsing sessions that I stumbled upon a hidden chat room. The room was titled The Confessor's Corner, and it intrigued me. I felt a strange pull towards it, as if something was drawing me in. With a click I entered, and my screen lit up with a simple interface. It was a basic chat room, nothing fancy, but the anonymity it provided was comforting. I could be anyone here. I could say anything without fear of judgment. I introduced myself as Rachel, my real name, feeling a strange sense of freedom in this hidden place. Almost immediately, a response popped up. "Hey, Rachel, I'm Jake. Mind if I join you?" His username was Stranger in the Dark, and his profile picture was a simple black silhouette. I felt a slight chill at the name, but I brushed it off. I was curious, and the thrill of talking to a complete stranger excited me. "Note it all. It's nice to have some company," I replied. And so we began to chat. Jake seemed friendly and open. He told me about his day, the boring routine of his job, and how he looked forward to these late-night conversations. His messages were thoughtful and sincere, and I found myself drawn to his easy manner. He shared personal stories and deep thoughts, and I found myself doing the same. Before I knew it, hours had passed, and the sun was beginning to rise. We exchanged final goodbyes, and I felt a strange sense of anticipation for the next night's chat. I had never connected with someone so easily, and the anonymity of the dark web made it all the more intriguing. Little did I know that this stranger in the dark would soon become my worst nightmare. Over the next few weeks, Jake and I continued our nightly chats. I found myself looking forward to them more and more. He was easy to talk to, and our conversations delved into deeper and more personal topics. I shared my recent breakup with him, and he listened intently, offering words of comfort and understanding. However, as our chats progressed, Jake started to make strange requests. At first, they seemed harmless enough. He would ask about my day, my likes and dislikes, and then slowly, the questions became more personal. "Hey, Rachel, send me a picture of yourself," he asked one night. I obliged, sending a simple selfie, feeling a little flattered by his interest. He responded with a compliment, and I felt a warm glow. It had been a while since someone had made me feel special. But then his requests took a turn. "Can you send another? I want to see your feet," he asked casually. I was taken aback, but I figured it was a harmless fetish. I sent them a picture of my bare feet, thinking it was a little odd, but not a big deal. He responded with enthusiasm, and his messages became more insistent. "I love it. Can you put some ketchup on your toes? It's a weird request, I know, but I'll explain later. Promise." I hesitated, feeling uncomfortable, but a part of me was curious, and I wanted to keep his interest. So, I did as he asked, smearing ketchup on my feet and taking a picture. His response was immediate and intense, and he seemed to relish in my compliance. The next night, he asked for another picture, this time with mustard. I felt repulsed, but I couldn't deny the thrill of it all. I obliged once more, and soon our chats took on a bizarre routine. I would send him strange pictures, and he would respond with increasing enthusiasm. It was only later that I realized these harmless pictures were just the beginning of his obsession. As time went on, Jake's messages became more frequent and demanding. He would text me throughout the day, asking for more extreme photos and videos. He wanted to see me in public places, doing mundane tasks, but always with some strange twist. "Send me a video of you licking an ice cream cone, but with your eyes closed," he requested one afternoon. I found myself complying, sneaking off to a nearby park to film the strange clip. I felt a sense of power in being able to satisfy his peculiar desires, but it was also starting to unnerve me. "Rachel, you're so beautiful. I can't get enough of you," he would say. "Just one more picture, please. I need to see you with syrup on your feet. It drives me wild." His requests were becoming harder to ignore, and I found myself giving in more often than not, but with each concession, a little voice in my head warned me that this was not normal behavior. One night, after a particularly intense chat, I decided enough was enough. I blocked Jake, feeling a surge of empowerment. I told myself that I should never have ventured onto the dark web in the first place, and vowed to forget about him. But little did I know, the nightmare was far from over. Jake's obsession had only just begun. Within hours of blocking Jake, my phone buzzed with notifications from an unknown number. Text messages flooded my screen, all from the same stranger. "Hey, but why are you ignoring me? I'm trying to reach out." "Please don't do this. I just want to talk to you. I know I might have come on a bit strong, but I can explain everything." I was terrified. How did he have my number? I hadn't given it to him, and I had always been careful to protect my identity online. My heart raced as I realized the extent of his determination. I tried to ignore the messages, but they kept coming, growing more disturbing by the minute. "I know you're reading these, Rachel. Don't make me come looking for you." "You can't hide from me. I'll find you, and we can finish what we started." Then a letter arrived at my apartment. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was from Jake. "Abe, don't ignore me. I don't want to have to come see you. You know I can. Just talk to me and we can work this out. I miss our chats." The letter was filled with obsessive and unsettling language, and my blood ran cold as I realized he had found a way into my life beyond the dark web. Panicked, I changed my phone number and moved to a new apartment on the other side of the city. I spent the next few days feeling paranoid, checking locks, and looking over my shoulder constantly. I thought I had escaped, but I was wrong. Oh. One night, after falling asleep in my new home, I woke up to find my bedroom door slightly ajar. A chill ran down my spine as I realized someone had been in my room. When I checked my phone, I found multiple new photos, pictures of myself sleeping, taken from outside my bedroom window. The images were eerie, showing my vulnerable expression as I slept, unaware of the watcher outside. Jake had found me again. I was petrified. How had he found me? I had been so careful, yet here he was, watching me again. I felt a constant sense of dread as I realized, no matter how many times I tried to move on, Jake would always find a way to follow me. I changed my daily routines, took different routes to work, and avoided any place I thought he might look for me. But still, he persisted. Strange gifts started arriving at my doorstep. Boxes of ketchup and mustard, syrup, and other bizarre items that reminded me of our chats. Each delivery sent a shiver down my spine, a reminder that he was still out there, watching and waiting. I considered going to the police, but I knew I had ventured into a murky area of the internet, a place where anonymity was prized, and my own actions could be called into question. Besides, what evidence did I have? Strange gifts and obsessive messages might not be enough to warrant an investigation. So, I continued my life, always looking over my shoulder, never feeling safe. I started to become paranoid, questioning everyone around me. Was it a coworker, a neighbor, someone I passed on the street? I had no idea how close Jake was, but I knew he was always watching. One night, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "I'm closer than you think, Rachel. You can't escape me. Just give in to what we both want." I froze, my heart pounding. This time, the message felt like a threat. I was running out of options, and the fear was becoming unbearable. Desperate, I decided to confront Jake, to meet him face to face and put an end to this nightmare. I set up a meeting at a local cafe, choosing a public place where I felt safer. As I waited, my heart raced and my palms began to sweat. I scanned the crowd, looking for any sign of him. Then I saw a figure approaching, their face hidden by a dark hood. "Rachel!" a familiar voice called out. I looked up, my eyes widening in shock as I recognized the face beneath the hood. It couldn't be. "You?" I whispered, my voice filled with disbelief. Standing before me was my ex-boyfriend, the man I thought I knew, the man I had shared my life with. "I couldn't let you go, Rachel," he said, his eyes intense. "I knew you were hurting after our breakup, so I found you on the dark web. I became someone you could confide in, someone you would open up to." My mind reeled as the truth sunk in. Jake, the stranger in the dark, was never a stranger at all. It had been my ex the entire time, manipulating me, feeding off my pain and taking advantage of my vulnerability. "But why?" I asked, my voice shaking. "Why would you do this?" A twisted smile spread across his face. "Because I loved you, Rachel, and when you left me I couldn't let go. I had to find a way to keep you in my life, even if it meant becoming someone else." I felt sick to my stomach as the realization hit me. This had all been a game to him, a twisted way to exert control and feed his obsession. I stood, my eyes filled with fury. "You're sick. You need help. Leave me alone, or I swear I'll go to the police." He took a step forward, his eyes pleading. "Please, Rachel, don't do this. We can start over. I'll get help. Just give me one more chance." I turned and walked away, my entire body trembling. I knew I had just scratched the surface of his obsession, and I feared what he might do next. In the days that followed, I took extra precautions, knowing my ex's obsession wouldn't end easily. I informed the police, and they advised me to keep a record of any further incidents. I installed security cameras around my apartment and carried pepper spray wherever I went. But despite my efforts, the incidents continued. I would find strange packages left at my doorstep, and the security cameras would capture glimpses of a hooded figure watching from the shadows. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft thud outside my window. My heart sank as I realized he was out there again. I crept to the window, careful to stay out of view, and peered out. There he was, standing in the moonlight, his eyes fixed on my bedroom window. I couldn't take much more of this. I decided to confront him one last time, to end this once and for all. The next day, I arranged to meet him at a secluded park, a place where we could talk without drawing attention. As I waited, my hands clenched into fists, ready for a fight if necessary. He arrived, his eyes wild and desperate. Rachel, I know I've crossed a line, but I can change. I'll do anything to be with you again. I stepped forward, my voice steady. You need help. Professional help. This obsession of yours is unhealthy and it needs to stop. Right now. He shook his head, his face contorting with anger. You don't understand. I can't let you go. You're mine, Rachel. You always will be. He lunged at me, his hands reaching out, but I was ready. I pulled out the pepper spray and aimed it directly at his face. He stumbled back, crying out in pain, his hands covering his eyes. I didn't wait to see the outcome. I turned and ran, putting as much distance between us as possible. I knew I had to get away, to sever all ties with this man who refused to let me go. In the weeks that followed, I slowly began to heal. I sought counseling to help me process the trauma of the past few months. I changed my phone number again, moved to a different city, and cut all ties with my past life. The police investigation into my ex's stalking led to his arrest, and he was sentenced to a mental health facility for evaluation and treatment. I knew he needed help, but I also knew I had to protect myself first. It wasn't easy moving on. I had to learn to trust again, to let go of the fear that haunted me. But with time, I found myself smiling more, enjoying the little things in life, and embracing each day with a newfound appreciation. I made new friends, found a job I loved, and slowly rebuilt my life. I took self-defense classes, empowering myself with the knowledge that I could protect myself if needed. 1 year later, on my 28th birthday, I stood surrounded by my new friends, feeling a sense of peace and contentment I hadn't known in a long time. I blew out the candles on my cake, making a wish for a future free of fear and obsession. That night as I lay in bed, I thought of Jake, the stranger in the dark who had haunted my dreams. I hoped he was getting the help he needed, but I also knew that some wounds take a long time to heal. As I closed my eyes, a sense of strength washed over me. I was ready to move on, to leave the darkness behind and embrace the light of a new beginning. My name is Marcus, and I am addicted to the dark side of the internet. It started as a mere curiosity, a morbid fascination with the things that lurk in the shadows of the web. I told myself I was just exploring, satisfying a curiosity that most people would rather ignore. But soon, it became something more. The thrill of discovering hidden corners of the online world, places most people don't even know exist, was irresistible. On one such exploration, out of sheer boredom, I stumbled upon a link that would change my life forever. It was a hidden site on the dark web, accessible only through a special browser and a series of cryptic passwords. The site was called The Crimson Show. At first glance, it seemed like any other live streaming site, with a simple chat feature and a video player taking center stage. But as I scrolled down, my heart sank. The video thumbnails showed people in various states of distress, their faces contorted in pain and fear. It was clear that this site hosted live-streamed torture. A sense of revulsion washed over me, and I almost closed the tab. But something held me back. Maybe it was curiosity, or perhaps a twisted fascination with the grotesque. I told myself I'd only stay for a few minutes, just to satisfy my morbid curiosity. The stream that caught my attention featured a young woman bound to a chair, her eyes wide with terror. The person behind the camera was unseen and silent, but the intent was clear. The camera focused on the woman's face as a hand appeared, stroking her cheek almost gently before delivering a sharp slap that made her cry out. The chat room erupted with excitement, and my heart raced. I told myself I was disgusted, that I wanted to look away, but I stayed. The longer I watched, the more desensitized I became. The adrenaline rush was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. The anonymity of the dark web added to the thrill. I could be anyone, and no one would know. As the weeks went by, I found myself returning to the Crimson Show regularly. Each week, a new victim appeared, and the torture escalated in intensity. I knew I should have been horrified, but instead I felt a strange sense of anticipation. The site's hosts always kept their faces hidden, their voices distorted, adding to the air of mystery and danger. There was a twisted rule that the Crimson Show operated on. Each week, one random viewer would be chosen to become the next victim. At first, I dismissed this as a scare tactic, a way to add an extra layer of excitement for the viewers. Little did I know that this rule would soon become my worst nightmare. It had been several months since I discovered the Crimson Show, and my fascination had turned into a dangerous addiction. I found myself looking forward to the streams, the thrill of witnessing something so forbidden and extreme. I knew it was wrong, but the anonymity of the dark web made me feel untouchable. Until that fateful day when I received an email. The subject line read, "Congratulations, you're next." My heart sank as I recognized the signature style of the Crimson Show. I opened the email with trembling fingers, half expecting it to be some kind of sick joke. The message was short and chilling. It included my full name, my address, and even details of my daily routine. They knew where I worked, what time I left my apartment, and the route I took to the subway. Panic gripped me as I realized this was no hoax. I tried to rationalize, telling myself that it was a scare tactic, a personalized marketing ploy to keep viewers engaged. But deep down, I knew this was different. The email ended with a chilling promise. "We will be in touch soon. Your time is running out." I deleted the email, shut down my computer, and tried to convince myself that it was over, but the damage was done. I found myself looking over my shoulder, jumping at shadows. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Strange things started happening. I'd noticed cameras in my apartment that I was certain I hadn't installed. At night, I'd hear faint noises, like someone moving furniture in the apartment above. Except there was no apartment above mine. Shadows in the corner of my eye seemed to follow me, and my paranoia grew. I tried to stay away from the internet, but my curiosity and fear got the best of me. I logged back into the Crimson Show, hoping for some kind of answer or explanation. The chat room was abuzz with excitement, and the hosts were taunting me. They knew I was watching, and they promised that my performance would be the grand finale. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with terrifying possibilities. I felt trapped, knowing that these people could be watching me at any moment. The guilt consumed me as I realized the true extent of my voyeurism. I had indulged in the darkest corners of the web, and now I was paying the price. I knew I had to take action, so I started by trying to trace the source of the cameras in my apartment. I searched every inch of my home, but found no signs of hidden recording devices. It was as if the cameras appeared and disappeared at will. I changed my daily routine, taking different routes to work and varying my schedule, but the hosts of the Crimson Show always seemed one step ahead. Desperate, I reached out to a friend who was a computer hacker. I trusted him enough to confide in him about my dark web activities, and he agreed to help. Together, we tried to track down the IP addresses and locations of the streams, but they were routed through countless proxies and anonymous networks, making it nearly impossible to pinpoint their origin. As the days ticked by, my paranoia grew. I became convinced that everyone around me was in on it, that they were all part of this twisted game. I isolated myself, afraid to trust anyone. The hosts of the Crimson Show continued to send me cryptic messages, taunting me with clues about my impending performance. One night, my hacker friend called me, sounding more terrified than I'd ever heard him. He claimed that he had traced some of the IP addresses to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. He begged me to stay away, saying that he feared for my life if I went there alone. But my desperation overruled my better judgment. I made my way to the warehouse, my heart pounding with every step. The building loomed before me, its windows dark and foreboding. I entered cautiously, my hands clammy as I gripped a makeshift weapon, a pipe I had found outside. The warehouse was eerily quiet, but I could feel eyes on me. As I ventured deeper, I discovered a hidden room. My breath caught in my throat as I saw a familiar sight. The setup for the Crimson Show. Cameras, lights, and a chair bound with restraints. But the scene was empty, no hosts or victims in sight. Just as I started to relax, thinking that I had arrived too late, a voice echoed through the warehouse. "Welcome, Marcus. We've been expecting you." I spun around, searching for the source of the voice, my heart pounding in my ears. From the shadows, they emerged. 3 figures, their faces obscured by masks, their bodies cloaked in darkness. They moved with an eerie synchronization, circling me like predators. "You've been a loyal viewer, Marcus," one of them said, the distorted voice sending shivers down my spine. "But now, it's time for you to take center stage." I backed away, my eyes darting around for an escape route. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice shaking. They laughed, a chilling sound that echoed through the warehouse. What do we want? We want to give our viewers what they crave, a show like no other. And you, Marcus, are the star." I shook my head, denial washing over me. "No, this wasn't part of the deal. I just watched. I never agreed to this." "Oh, but you did," another figure said, stepping forward. "The rules were clear. Every week, a random viewer becomes the next victim, and this week, it's you." My mind raced as I tried to process my options. I knew these people were ruthless, capable of unspeakable acts, but something in me refused to give up. "Why me?" I asked, stalling for time. "Why choose your most loyal viewer?" The figures exchanged glances as if debating something. Then one of them stepped closer, leaning in so that I could feel their breath on my face. "You see, Marcus, it's not random at all. We choose those who we know will put on a good show, and you, with your dark desires and morbid curiosity, were always destined for this." I lunged at them, driven by a surge of adrenaline and fear, but they were prepared, and I felt a sharp blow to the back of my head. Everything went dark. I awoke to find myself bound to the chair, the same one I had seen in countless streams. The warehouse was now illuminated by harsh lights, and the cameras were rolling. My heart sank as I realized this was really happening. I was the main event of the Crimson Show. The 3 figures stood before me, their masks hiding any trace of humanity. "Welcome back, Marcus," one of them said. "We're about to begin. Are you ready for your performance?" I struggled against my restraints, but they held firm. "Please," I begged, "just let me go. I won't tell anyone about this. I promise." They laughed, an eerie sound that sent chills down my spine. Oh, Marcus, you know the rules. There's no going back now. The show must go on." As they stepped forward, their weapons of choice in hand, I felt a surge of adrenaline. I knew I had to buy myself some time to find a way out of this nightmare. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I started talking. "You know," I said, my voice steady despite my fear, "I understand why you chose me. I was a loyal viewer, drawn to the darkness you offered. But I wonder, do you ever feel any guilt, any remorse for the lives you've taken?" The figures hesitated, their eyes narrowing behind the masks. "Guilt," one of them repeated, the word dripping with contempt. "We feel no guilt. We give the people what they want. We are simply providing a service." I shook my head, my voice laced with sincerity. "But don't you see? You're not just providing a service. You're preying on people's darkest desires. You're corrupting them, making them complicit in your crimes. You may think you're untouchable, but you're wrong." As I spoke, I saw a flicker of something in their eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or maybe fear. I pressed on, knowing this might be my only chance. "You think you can hide behind your masks and the anonymity of the dark web, but you're not as invisible as you think. Somewhere out there, someone is watching you, someone who will bring you to justice." The figures froze, their weapons lowered as they exchanged glances. For a moment the warehouse was silent, the only sound the whirring of the cameras. Then they turned and walked away, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. I sat there, stunned, as the reality of what had just happened sank in. I had talked my way out of becoming their victim. But the relief was short-lived as I realized the true horror of my situation. I had escaped, but I knew too much. I had seen their faces, and they would stop at nothing to ensure my silence. In the end, I did the only thing I could. I disappeared. I changed my name, left Brooklyn, and started a new life far from the reach of the Crimson Show. I knew they were still out there, and I lived with the constant fear that they would find me. But I also knew that I had beaten them at their own game, and that gave me a small sense of satisfaction. As I write this, I often look over my shoulder, knowing that the darkness of the web still lingers. I may have escaped, but I will never truly be free. The Crimson Show haunts me still, a reminder of the consequences of indulging in dark desires. It was late, and I was bored, too bored, the kind of boredom that drives you to do stupid things. So there I was, browsing the dark web again. It's a dangerous habit, I know, but the thrill of exploring those hidden corners of the internet is addictive. That's how I stumbled upon it, an auction for mystery boxes. The listing was vague, shrouded in mystery, just like everything else on the dark web. A simple description read, "Bid for the unknown. You never know what you'll uncover." Accompanying the text was a photo of a large, nondescript box with a question mark painted on it. My curiosity piqued. What could be inside? I checked the bid amount. It was high, very high. This wasn't some petty cash auction, but then the dark web isn't known for its bargains. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Was I really considering this? With a mix of excitement and skepticism, I placed my bid. My heart raced as I hit the enter key, knowing there was no going back. A few days later, I received a message. I had won the auction. My hands shook as I read the simple instructions. Pay the Bitcoin address provided. Once confirmed, your mystery box will be delivered. Remember, discretion is assured for both parties. I transferred the cryptocurrency, feeling a mixture of anticipation and unease. What had I gotten myself into? I hadn't specified a delivery address, yet the box arrived at my apartment a few days later. It was huge, resembling something you'd use to move furniture. I lugged it inside, my curiosity growing with each step. What could possibly justify the size of this thing? With a sharp knife, I cut through the tape sealing the box. Inside was an excessive amount of packing materials. I dug through the styrofoam peanuts and bubble wrap, wondering if this was some elaborate prank. Then, at the very bottom, I found it. A single USB stick. My heart sank. This was it? All that build-up for a tiny piece of technology? I held it in my hand, turning it over. It was an older model, the kind with a cap that you could lose. My excitement faded, replaced by a sense of anticlimax. But then, my curiosity got the better of me. There was only one way to find out what was on it. I remembered an old laptop I had lying around, practically on its last legs. Why not, I thought. I paid for this, so I might as well check it out. I booted up the laptop and inserted the USB stick. A single file appeared, titled Play Me. My finger hovered over the enter key as a wave of doubt washed over me. What if this was a virus, some kind of trick to hack into my system? But my desire to uncover the mystery won out. I clicked on the file, and a video started playing. The image was grainy, but I could make out a room. It looked vaguely familiar, and then it hit me. It was my childhood bedroom. The video showed me sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the camera's presence. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized someone had been watching me, even during my most private moments. The video continued, showing various scenes from my life. There I was on my first day of school, playing in the park, and blowing out candles on my birthday cake. Each clip was like a punch to the gut, leaving me breathless and horrified. As the video progressed, I saw myself in my early teens dealing with the awkwardness of puberty. There were moments of happiness, like when I scored the winning goal in a soccer game, and moments of heartbreak, like my first breakup. It was like watching a twisted documentary of my life, one that I never knew was being filmed. Then the footage moved to more recent years. There I was, an adult going about my daily life. The camera had captured me walking to work, sitting at my desk, and even taking a shower. My entire life had been recorded without my knowledge or consent. I felt violated, my privacy invaded in the worst possible way. How long had someone been watching me? Who was behind this, and why? The video seemed to go on forever, a relentless parade of my most intimate moments. I felt like a caged animal, trapped in a nightmare I couldn't escape. Then, the video took a darker turn. It showed me in a bar, drinking with friends. I looked happy, laughing and joking. But then, the scene shifted to the street outside. I was walking home alone, a little unsteady on my feet. A figure stepped out of the shadows, following me. The person kept their distance, but was definitely trailing me. I quickened my pace, feeling a sense of danger. The figure matched my speed, their face hidden in the darkness. The video ended abruptly, leaving me with more questions than answers. I sat in silence, my mind racing. Who had been watching me all these years? How had they gained access to such intimate moments? And why had they included that final, disturbing scene? I spent the next few days in a daze, trying to process what I had seen. I felt violated, exposed, and vulnerable. My apartment felt like a prison, every corner a potential hiding place for a hidden camera. Paranoia crept into my every waking moment. I knew I had to take action, so I started researching. I delved back into the dark web, searching for similar auctions or any hint of who might be behind this. It was a dangerous game, as I was well aware that anonymity was crucial in this shadowy world. One wrong move could expose me to even greater risks. Days turned into weeks as I scoured the depths of the dark web, my obsession growing. I discovered forums where people discussed similar experiences, each sharing their own horrifying stories of privacy invasion. It seemed I wasn't alone in my torment. Then, one night, as I was about to give up for the day, I stumbled upon a hidden forum. It required a password, which I managed to brute force after several frustrating hours. What I found inside made my blood run cold. It was a live feed and it showed me. There I was, sitting in my apartment, looking haggard and scared. The camera must have been hidden somewhere in my home, watching my every move. I felt a surge of anger, mixed with fear. How long had this been going on? But that wasn't the worst part. Below the live feed was a chat box, and it was filled with messages. Millions of people had been watching me, commenting on my every action. They knew my fears, my secrets, and my desires. I was nothing more than a character in a twisted reality show, and the audience had been hiding in plain sight, on the dark web. I felt sick to my stomach as I realized the true extent of the violation. My entire life had been a performance, and I never even knew it. I scrolled through the chat, my eyes widening at the sheer number of viewers. They had seen me grow up, fall in love, and experience heartbreak. Every moment, every emotion had been witnessed by this hidden audience. But why? What did they get out of watching my mundane existence? As I read through the chat, a horrifying realization dawned on me. This wasn't just about spying on my life. It was a game. A sick, twisted game where the viewers placed bets on my actions. They had predicted my choices, my reactions, and my decisions. Every move I made was scrutinized and analyzed. They had known I would bid on that mystery box, and they had anticipated my curiosity getting the better of me. This wasn't a random act. It was all part of a carefully orchestrated plan. I felt trapped, like a rat in a maze, running through a course designed by someone else. My life had been manipulated, and I was nothing more than a puppet on a string. But who was pulling the strings? I needed to find out. I delved deeper into the dark web, searching for clues. I discovered other victims, each with their own tragic story. We were all connected by this sinister game, our lives exploited for the entertainment of others. The more I uncovered, the more I realized the true scope of this operation. It wasn't just a few individuals, it was a global network of viewers and players. I knew I had to take drastic action. I reached out to other victims, forming a small group of us who were determined to fight back. Together, we pooled our resources and knowledge, trying to trace the origin of this sick game. It was slow going, as the organizers had covered their tracks well. They utilized complex encryption and constantly shifting server locations. But we were relentless. We followed the digital trail, each discovery leading us closer to the truth. It became clear that this wasn't just about spying and voyeurism. It was a sophisticated criminal enterprise. The organizers were making millions from bets placed on our lives, and we were determined to bring it all crashing down. Then, one night, we made a breakthrough. We traced the source of the operation to a physical location. It was an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Our small group geared up and headed out, knowing this might be our only chance to confront those responsible. As we entered the warehouse, the smell of damp concrete and rust filled our nostrils. The place was eerily quiet, but we could sense the hum of hidden technology all around us. We moved cautiously, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. Then we found it, a server room filled with racks of computers and monitors. We shut down the servers, severing the connection to the dark web. The live feeds of our lives went dark, and the chat boxes fell silent. We had won. Or so we thought. As we turned to leave, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was one of the organizers, and he had a gun pointed directly at us. We froze, realizing this was a trap. He congratulated us on our efforts, a twisted smile on his face. "You've done well," he said, "but this game isn't over yet." He explained that we had merely scratched the surface. Our little rebellion had been anticipated, and now we were part of the next phase of the game. The viewers wanted to see how we would react, how far we would go to reclaim our privacy. I felt a surge of anger and despair. This was a never-ending nightmare. Just when I thought we had unraveled the web, I realized we were still trapped within it. The man pulled the trigger, and the bullet tore through one of my companions. Chaos ensued, and we scattered, knowing our only chance was to escape. I ran for my life, hearing the gunshots echoing behind me. I made it out of the warehouse, my heart pounding. I knew I couldn't go back to my apartment. They would be watching. I needed to disappear, to become a ghost in the machine. I changed my identity, moving from place to place, always looking over my shoulder. I lived in constant fear, knowing that at any moment I could be dragged back into that twisted game. I became a shadow, a ghost in a world where privacy no longer existed. Years passed, and I never stopped running. I changed my appearance, my name, and my digital footprint. I lived off the grid, knowing that any connection to the world could be used against me. I had become a master of evasion, always one step ahead of those who sought to exploit my life for their entertainment. But one day I received a message. It was from the organizers, and they were offering me a deal. They wanted to make me a player. They wanted to make me a chance to control the game. I hesitated, knowing this could be a trap, but the offer was too tempting to refuse. I agreed, and they welcomed me into their fold. I learned the inner workings of the game, the manipulation and the deceit. I became a master puppeteer, pulling the strings of other people's lives. But I never forgot the horror of being a victim, the feeling of having my privacy ripped away. In the end, I realized the true horror. I had become one of them. My name is Sam, and I'm a 28-year-old software engineer living in Chicago. I've always had a fascination with the mysterious and the unknown, so when I heard about the dark web, I was intrigued. I knew it was a dangerous place, full of illegal activities and anonymous criminals, but that only added to its allure. One lonely night, I decided to explore. I downloaded the necessary software and took the steps to protect my anonymity. As I delved deeper into this hidden realm, I stumbled upon a website like no other. It was an invite-only site, and I felt a thrill of exclusive as I realized I had accidentally discovered something exclusive. The website was called The Game, and it promised an exclusive digital treasure hunt with rewards beyond imagination. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I read the introduction. My curiosity piqued. I had to know more. According to the site, the game had been running for years, with players from all over the world participating in the competition. The goal was to complete a series of challenges, each more complex and demanding than the last. Rewards were promised for those who succeeded, and penalties were hinted at for those who failed. I felt a mix of emotions as I read through the rules and regulations. This was clearly not a game for the faint of heart. It required skill, bravery, and a willingness to break the law. But I was drawn to it, fascinated by the idea of testing my abilities, in such a unique and forbidden way. The first challenge was relatively simple: hack into a personal account and obtain sensitive information. I felt a rush of power as I successfully infiltrated an email account, downloading private documents and messages. I knew I was invading someone's privacy, but the thrill of the game pushed me forward. As I progressed, the challenges became more intricate. I was asked to obtain confidential corporate files, manipulate online polls, and even perform small acts of sabotage on rival players. I became engrossed in the game, spending hours each night working on the tasks. I felt like I was part of a secret society, and the thrill of the forbidden only added to the excitement. Little did I know that the game would soon take a darker turn, and my curiosity would lead me down a path of paranoia and terror. As I progressed through the challenges, I noticed a disturbing shift in their nature. The tasks became more personal and invasive. One challenge required me to hack into someone's personal computer and spy on them through their webcam. Another task involved manipulating someone's online presence to ruin their reputation. I began to feel uneasy as I realized the true extent of the game's intrusion into people's lives. This was no longer just a digital treasure hunt. It was a violation of privacy and a manipulation of people's personal lives. But by then, I was already too involved, and my curiosity kept me going. It was around this time that I started to feel a strange presence in my daily life. I would often feel like someone was watching me, a constant sense of being followed. I dismissed it as paranoia at first, a side effect of spending too much time in the dark recesses of the web. But then, strange things started happening. I'd find my apartment exactly as I'd left it, yet I'd get an unsettling feeling that someone had been there in my absence. Sometimes, I'd hear faint noises in the night, like someone moving about in my home. I'd search the place, frantically, but never find any sign of intrusion. I began to question my sanity, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. Then the cryptic messages started. I'd receive anonymous texts and emails containing vague threats and hints at someone watching me. They seemed to be linked to the game, but I couldn't be sure. My paranoia grew as I tried to connect the dots, feeling like I was being drawn into a web of danger and intrigue. The challenges themselves became more demanding and time-consuming. I found myself neglecting my work and personal life, obsessed with completing the tasks and discovering the true nature of the game. I was addicted to the thrill, but also afraid of what I might uncover. One night, as I was working on a particularly complex challenge, I felt a chill run down my spine. I had the distinct feeling that someone was standing right behind me, watching my every move. I spun around, heart pounding, but found no one there. I knew then that my paranoia was becoming uncontrollable, but I couldn't shake the feeling of an unseen presence. Little did I know that this unseen presence was more than just my imagination, and the truth would be far more terrifying than anything I could have imagined. The challenges were becoming increasingly complex, and I was struggling to keep up. I had to push myself to the limit, often pulling all-nighters to meet the demanding deadlines. My health and personal life were suffering, but I couldn't stop now. I was determined to see the game through to the end, no matter the cost. As I progressed, I started to piece together fragments of information, uncovering hints about the true nature of the game and its origins. It seemed to be the creation of a mysterious figure, someone who had a deep understanding of the dark web and an even darker purpose. The more I learned, the more I realized that the game was not just a game. It was a tool, a way to recruit and test individuals, pushing them to their limits and beyond. but for what purpose, I could not yet fathom. Then, finally, I received the message I had been both dreading and anticipating. It was time for the final challenge. This task would determine my success or failure, and I was determined to see it through. The instructions were simple: track down the unseen user, uncover the truth behind the one who has been watching. Beware, for this user is closer than you think. I felt a rush of adrenaline as I read the message. Finally, I would get some answers. But as I delved into the final challenge, I realized that the truth was far more twisted and personal than I could have ever imagined. I followed the digital breadcrumbs, tracing IP addresses and uncovering hidden messages. Slowly, a picture began to form. The unseen user was someone who had been monitoring my online activity for a very long time, far longer than I had realized. They had been pulling the strings, manipulating events in my life, and using the game to control me. As the truth unfolded, my growing paranoia turned into sheer terror. I felt trapped in a web of manipulation, my every move predicted and controlled. I was desperate to break free, but I had to see this through to the end. I had to know who was behind this and why. I uncovered more disturbing details with each step, leading me closer to the truth. I felt like a character in a horror movie, knowing that the villain was close by, watching my every move. My anxiety grew with each discovery, and I found myself looking over my shoulder constantly, expecting a menacing figure to appear at any moment. Finally, I reached the heart of the matter. The unseen user's identity was revealed, and with it, a shocking connection to my past. This person had been watching me for years, manipulating events in my life, and using the game to test my limits. But why? The answer to that question would change my life forever. The unseen user turned out to be someone I knew, or at least someone I thought I knew. It was a person from my past, someone I had trusted, but who had been secretly obsessing over me for years. The truth was far more disturbing than any fictional horror story I had ever encountered. As the final pieces fell into place, I realized the true extent of their obsession. They had created the game as a way to control and manipulate me, testing my limits and pushing me further into their web of deceit. The challenges had been designed to invade my privacy, but also to reveal my character, my strengths, and my weaknesses. I felt a mix of emotions: anger, fear, and a deep sense of violation. This person had invaded my life, manipulated my actions, and used my curiosity against me. But why? The answer to that question was even more shocking. The unseen user, this person from my past, believed that we were meant to be together forever. They had constructed the game as a way to test my loyalty and devotion, a twisted way to prove that I was worthy of their love. It was a horrifying realization, and I felt sick to my core. As I confronted this person, the truth came pouring out along with threats and desperate pleas. They had been watching me, studying me, and molding me into the perfect partner according to their warped perception. The game was their way of ensuring that I was worthy, and now that I had completed it, they expected me to fulfill their twisted fantasy. I was disgusted and terrified. This person had crossed so many lines, and I feared what they might do next. I tried to break free, to cut all ties, but they were relentless. They had prepared for this moment, and they were not about to let me go. That's when things took an even darker turn. This person revealed that they had backup plans, contingencies, in case I tried to escape their grasp. They had been manipulating not just me, but also the people closest to me, turning them against me without my knowledge. I was trapped, isolated and alone. In a desperate attempt to free myself, I delved deeper into the dark web, seeking help from anonymous allies. I found a group of hackers who were willing to assist, but it came at a cost. I had to agree to join their ranks and participate in their own version of the game, pushing the boundaries of legality and morality even further. As I worked with this new group, I learned that the game was not an isolated incident. There were others like it, created by different individuals with their own twisted agendas. I had stumbled upon a hidden community of manipulators and controllers, each with their own dark purposes. In the end, I managed to escape the grasp of the unseen user, but at a great cost. My life was forever changed, and the scars of the game ran deep. I had to start over, create a new identity, and leave my past behind. The dark web had almost consumed me, and I knew I would never truly be free of its reach. Years have passed since that terrifying ordeal, but I still feel its impact every day. I live a quiet life now, keeping to myself and avoiding any involvement with the dark web. I know that world is still out there, a hidden realm of danger and intrigue, but I'm determined to leave it behind, to rebuild and find peace. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever truly be free of the game and the unseen users who lurk in the shadows of the dark web. It haunts me, reminding me of the thin line between curiosity and obsession, between intrigue and terror. I share my story as a warning to others who might be drawn to the dark web's allure. Beyond its mysterious veil lies a world of danger and manipulation, where curiosity can become your worst enemy. Tread carefully, for the cost of exploration can be far greater than you imagine. I stare at the computer screen, the dull glow reflecting off my tired eyes. It's late, and the silence of my small apartment envelops me like a heavy blanket. I'm 28, and my life feels like it's falling apart. My job as a data entry clerk is soul-crushing, and my social life is non-existent. I moved to the city a year ago, hoping for a fresh start, but instead, I find myself isolated and lonely. Tonight, like many others, I seek an escape, a way to break free from the dull routine that is suffocating me. With a few clicks, I venture into the seedy underbelly of the internet, the dark web, lured by rumors of a world where anything can be bought without a trace. The screen displays cryptic links and hidden marketplaces, each more intriguing than the last. I feel a rush of adrenaline as I navigate through the shadowy corners of the online world. Oof, it's a dangerous game, and I know one wrong click could lead me down a path of no return. My curiosity leads me to a marketplace that offers a variety of illicit substances. I haven't smoked weed in years, but the familiar scent and sensation are comforting memories from my college days. With a few keystrokes, I place an order, paying with cryptocurrency I acquired specifically for this purpose. The transaction is smooth, almost too easy, and I feel a rush of excitement, mixed with a tinge of paranoia. As I return from work the next day, I spot a small, nondescript package on my doorstep. My heart races as I pick it up. There's no return address, no markings at all, just a plain brown box. Inside, I find a vacuum-sealed bag containing a greenish-brown substance. It's weed, and the pungent aroma brings a smile to my face. For a moment, I feel a sense of victory. I've gotten away with it. No dealers, no sketchy meetings, just a simple, anonymous transaction. I tell myself that this is a harmless way to unwind, a small rebellion against the drudgery of my daily life. The weed is good, better than anything I've smoked before. As I inhale the sweet smoke, my worries melt away, and I feel a sense of calm wash over me. But as the high wears off, the dullness of my reality creeps back in. The next day, driven by a combination of curiosity and a desire for a more intense escape, I find myself delving deeper into the dark web. I discover forums and marketplaces that make my previous purchase seem tame. Hard drugs, synthetic substances, and even more sinister offerings are advertised, each promising a more profound, more mind-altering experience. I feel a pull, a dark temptation urging me to explore further. With a few clicks, I order a synthetic drug that promises an intense high and a complete detachment from reality. The transaction is as smooth as the first, and the package arrives promptly the next day. This time, the parcel contains a small vial of clear liquid along with a syringe. I hesitate as I hold the syringe in my hand, knowing that this is a step beyond anything I've done before. But the allure of a more intense escape is too strong, and I convince myself that one taste won't hurt. The rush is immediate and overwhelming. As the drug courses through my veins, I feel a sense of power and invincibility. Colors seem brighter, sounds more intense, and for a brief moment, I feel truly alive. But as the high wears off, a deep sense of unease settles in. The next morning I wake up with a nagging sense of dread lingering in my mind. I try to shake it off, attributing it to the after effects of the drug. As I boot up my computer, a new email catches my attention. The subject line reads, "You won't believe this one." Intrigued, I open it, only to find a video attachment. The first few seconds of the video confuse me. It's footage of myself, but it has been recorded without my knowledge. There I am, injecting the drug. The syringe clearly visible. A timestamp in the corner confirms it was filmed the previous day when I was high. Then the video cuts to a message. "You thought you could be anonymous. You thought you could escape the law. But we're watching you." My heart sinks as I realize the implications. Someone has been spying on me, recording my most private moments. The video continues, showing intimate details of my apartment, the items I've purchased online, and even footage of me entering my work building. A distorted voice, menacing and cold, fills the room. "This is your new reality. You're working for us now. You'll deliver for us, or we'll make sure this footage ends up with the authorities. Don't even think about running or going to the police. We have eyes everywhere. You're under our control." The video ends with a chilling note. "Welcome to the game. Your first delivery tomorrow." Panic grips me. The fear of exposure is overwhelming, and the thought of going to the police seems equally terrifying. What if they're involved somehow? What if this is some elaborate setup? I try to delete the email, but it keeps reappearing, along with the video, a constant reminder of my powerlessness. My phone buzzes again, and another email arrives with precise delivery instructions. "You will deliver the package to these coordinates. Failure is not an option. Succeed, and you will be rewarded. Fail, and your secrets will be exposed." I have no choice but to comply. The fear of exposure and the unknown consequences keep me in line. I make the delivery as instructed, meeting a faceless figure in a dark alley who exchanges the package for a stack of cash. The encounter is surreal, and I feel like I've stepped into a criminal underworld that exists just beyond the periphery of normal life. Over the next few weeks, I become a puppet on their strings, carrying out their demands. Each delivery is more dangerous and intricate than the last, taking me to different cities and secluded locations. With every successful delivery, they send me videos showcasing their reach and power. They know my every move, and the fear they instill keeps me obedient. I live in constant paranoia, seeing shadows following me and feeling eyes on me everywhere I go. My mind races with questions. Who are these people? How did they choose me? Is there any way out? Then, one day, a message unlike any other appears in my inbox. It's an encrypted message with a tantalizing subject line: "The truth revealed." Intrigued and desperate for answers, I open it, finding a link to a forum post. The message reads, "It's all an illusion. Nothing is as it seems." My heart races as I click the link, half expecting another threat. Instead, I find myself on a dark web forum, a place I've never visited before. The post is titled, "The Experiment." "You've been a part of our game for months now," the post reads. "The drugs you've been delivering are fake. The people you've met are actors. Your entire experience on the dark web has been staged." I feel a mix of emotions, relief that it wasn't real, but also anger and confusion. How could they manipulate me so completely? Who are these people, and what do they want? The post continues. "The Syndicate is a psychological experiment designed to test your limits. Your online activity, social media presence, and personal data were used to create a simulated world of surveillance. We fabricated the footage, manipulated your data, and played with your fears." As I try to close the forum, my heart sinks. I can't log out. A final message appears, freezing me in place. "This isn't a game anymore. You've been under our watch for years. From the moment you ventured onto the dark web, we were there. The Syndicate isn't just an online entity. It's a part of your life, and you've never truly been free." The screen goes black and my phone buzzes one last time. It's a video, but this time it's not a recording. It's live footage of me, sitting in my apartment, looking at my phone. I spin around, my heart pounding. There are no hidden cameras, no obvious signs of surveillance, yet they're watching me in real time. I realize with growing dread that this is far from over. In the following weeks, I discover just how deep the Syndicate's reach truly is. They've infiltrated every aspect of my life, online and offline. They manipulate my online presence, control my finances, and even influence my relationships. It's an intricate web of deception, and I feel trapped, unable to trust anyone. I seek help from the authorities, but my pleas fall on deaf ears. Without concrete evidence, they dismiss my claims as paranoia or a result of my involvement with illegal activities on the dark web. I'm alone, struggling to differentiate between reality and the illusion they've crafted. My life becomes a never-ending cycle of fear and paranoia. I change my habits, my appearance, and even my name. But it's futile. They always find me, always watch, always control. The Syndicate has become my shadow, and their grip tightens with each passing day. Driven by desperation, I delve deeper into the dark web, searching for a way out. I discover forums and communities that offer advice on evading surveillance and disappearing. I know it's a risky move, but I'm willing to take the chance. I acquire fake IDs, create new online identities, and slowly I begin to build an escape plan. It's a complex and dangerous game, and one wrong move could be my downfall. But the thought of spending the rest of my life under their control is even more terrifying. I execute my plan, disappearing from my old life without a trace. I change my appearance drastically, abandon my old identities, and create a new life for myself, far from the reach of the Syndicate. Or so I think. Months later, as I settle into my new life, a sense of peace washes over me. I've escaped the Syndicate's grasp, or so I believe. But little do I know, they've been watching my every move, biding their time. One night, as I return to my new apartment, I find a familiar package on my doorstep. My heart sinks as I recognize the plain brown box. Inside, a note reads, "Welcome back. You can't hide from us. The game isn't over." I realize, with a chilling sense of dread, that the Syndicate isn't just a group of manipulators. They're a powerful entity with connections that run deep. They've been playing a long game, and my escape was always part of their plan. Driven by a mix of anger and determination, I decide to confront the Syndicate head-on. I use my skills and knowledge of the dark web to track them down. It's a dangerous move, but I'm willing to take the risk. I discover their true identities, their base of operations, and the extent of their power. They're not just a group of online manipulators. They're a sophisticated criminal organization with tendrils in every aspect of society. With this knowledge, I approach the authorities once more, presenting them with undeniable evidence of the Syndicate's activities. This time, they listen. An investigation is launched, and the net closes in on the Syndicate. The Syndicate is dismantled, their operations exposed, and their leaders brought to justice. As I watch the news report, a sense of relief washes over me. I am finally free from their grasp, and the weight of their control lifts from my shoulders. I reflect on my journey, the desperation that led me to the dark web, the thrill of anonymous transactions, and the terrifying realization that nothing is truly anonymous. The dark web is a world of shadows and secrets where power and control can be bought and sold. I've learned the hard way that the allure of the dark web comes at a cost. Anonymity is an illusion, and freedom comes with a price. As I move forward, I know that the memories of my time under the Syndicate's control will always be a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the digital shadows. My name is Ethan, and I've always been a tech enthusiast, fascinated by the dark underbelly of the internet. I spent most of my time online, dreaming of building the ultimate gaming rig. But my financial situation was a constant hurdle, forcing me to scour the web for deals and cheap parts. It was during one of these frustrated searches that I first ventured into the dark web. I downloaded the necessary software and entered this hidden realm with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The dark web has a notorious reputation, and I soon discovered why. It didn't take long to stumble upon illicit activities and disturbing content. But something else caught my attention. A cryptic forum dedicated to underground gaming. The forum was filled with threads discussing obscure, often illegal games and competitions. It was a fascinating insight into a hidden world, and I soon became engrossed in the stories and rumors. That's when I noticed a particular thread titled, "The Web's Game." It was filled with cryptic comments and urban legends about a sinister live-streamed game. Intrigued, I started reading through the posts, trying to separate fact from fiction. The game, simply referred to as the web, was described as a deadly competition where players were chosen and forced to participate in a series of challenges. Those who failed met gruesome ends, while the winners, if there were any, remained shrouded in mystery. I almost dismissed it as another internet horror story, but something about the detail in the posts and the desperation in the comments caught my attention. That's when a private chat box popped up, and a user named NetGhost sent me a direct message. Curious about the web? They asked. I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to engage with this mysterious person. But my curiosity got the better of me. It sounds like an urban legend, I replied. It's very real, NetGhost responded, and far more terrifying than any story. I asked how they knew so much, and NetGhost claims to have first-hand experience. They hinted at being a former player who had managed to escape, now living in fear of retribution. My heart raced as I read their messages, knowing I was treading into dangerous territory. "What are you contacting me?" I asked, half hoping they'd disappear and leave me alone. "Because the web is always watching," they replied. "And they choose players based on their online activity. You're exactly the type they target." A chill ran down my spine. NetGhost's warnings were cryptic, but they seemed to know something I didn't. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Just be careful, Ethan," they replied. "The web is everywhere, and once you're in, there's no getting out." Before I could respond, NetGhost had logged off, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I considered unplugging my router and disappearing from the web altogether, but my curiosity, and perhaps my arrogance, kept me hooked. I needed to know more about this sinister game and whether it was truly as dangerous as NetGhost claimed. I spent the next few days obsessively researching the web, trying to separate fact from fiction. I discovered disturbing videos and snippets of gameplay, but nothing concrete. It seemed NetGhost was right. The web thrived on secrecy and shadows. However, one thing became clear. The web was not a game anyone wanted to be a part of. Despite the danger, a part of me yearned to uncover the truth. So, when that ghost reached out again, I agreed to meet in person. We arranged a discreet location, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. As I made my way there, my heart pounded in my chest, and I questioned my sanity. But a dark fascination drove me forward. The warehouse was decrepit and eerie, surrounded by overgrown weeds. I stepped inside, my footsteps echoing in the vast space. The air was thick with dust and the musty smell of decay. NetGhost had instructed me to wear a blindfold, which I reluctantly did, relying on their guidance to find a secluded room deep within the warehouse. "You can remove it now," a voice whispered. I pulled off the blindfold and blinked, adjusting to the dim light. My eyes fell upon NetGhost, who was shrouded in darkness, their face hidden by a hood. I could sense their presence, but their features remained obscured. "Why have you brought me here?" I asked, my voice shaking. "To give you a chance to survive," they replied, their voice distorted. "The web is always watching, Ethan. It chooses its players carefully." I took a step back, suddenly aware of the danger I'd walked into. "How do I get out?" NetGhost stepped closer, their eyes glinting in the shadows. "You don't. Not unless you play by their rules." My heart sank as the reality of my situation hit me. What do I have to do? "You will receive an invitation," they said. "And when you do, you must play the game. There is no other way." "But why me?" I asked, my voice laced with desperation. NetGhost paused, their hooded head tilting slightly. "The web chooses those who are desperate, those who will do anything for a chance at something better. It feeds on ambition and greed." I felt a pang of shame, knowing they were right. My desire for a better gaming setup had led me down this dark path. What happens if I refuse to play? NetGhost's hooded figure stepped even closer, and I could feel their breath on my face. "Then you die, Ethan. It's that simple." Before I could respond, they reached out and tagged me, their gloved hand touching my shoulder. "Tag. You're it." I stumbled backward, my heart racing as I realized the game had already begun. I fled the warehouse, my mind reeling from the encounter with NetGhost. Their warning echoed in my head. "You don't get out, not unless you play by their rules." As I rushed home, I checked my phone obsessively. half expecting to find a sinister message or invitation. It was only a matter of time before the web made contact. Sure enough, when I arrived home, an email awaited me. The subject line read simply, "Welcome to the web." My hands trembled as I opened it, fearing what I would find. The email was concise and chilling. It explained that I was now a participant in the web, and that my life depended on following the rules. I had 48 hours to tag someone I knew, someone close to us, by sending them a similar email. Failure to do so would result in my disqualification, which, according to the email, was a fate worse than death. Attached to the email was a video file. With a sense of dread, I opened it and watched. The footage showed another participant, a young man who had failed to comply with the rules. He was running through a forest, clearly terrified, as unseen pursuers closed in. The video ended with a violent, bloody scene, leaving no doubt about the consequences of disobedience. I felt sick as I realized the true nature of the web. This wasn't just a game. It was a deadly, sadistic enterprise. I had no idea who was running it or how they had gained such power, but I knew I was trapped. My mind raced as I considered my options. I could try to disappear, go off the grid, and hope they couldn't find me. But NetGhost's warning echoed in my head. There is no escape. As I grappled with my limited choices, another email arrived, this one containing a link and a password. I hesitated, fearing what I might uncover, but my curiosity and desperation for answers drove me to open it. The link led me to a private live stream, and as I watched, my blood ran cold. It showed me, alone in my room, a clear indication that I was being constantly observed. The stream was powered by an AI system, and a synthesized voice began to explain the rules and my role in this twisted game. The AI revealed that players were chosen based on their psychological profiles and online activity. It knew my ambitions, my frustrations, and the dark corners of the web I had explored. It had used this knowledge to lure me in, and now I was ensnared in its web. The AI explained that the web was not just a game, but a system designed to perpetuate chaos and push players to their limits. It thrived on the psychological torment of its participants, and the live stream ensured that I witnessed every horrifying moment. As the timer ticked down, I felt a constant sense of dread and paranoia. I knew I had to choose someone to tag, but the thought of condemning another person to this nightmare sickened me. I considered confiding in a friend, explaining the situation, and hoping they would understand. But the web had made it clear that involving others would only put them in danger. I was isolated, and the system ensured it was nearly impossible to seek help without putting my loved ones at risk. I spent sleepless nights agonizing over my decision. The web had provided me with a list of potential targets, people I knew, each with a detailed psychological profile. I realized with a chill that the AI had been studying me and those close to me for some time. Among the profiles, I noticed someone familiar, NetGhost. Their true identity was revealed, along with their motivations for participating in the web. They had once been a player, like me, but had become entangled in the game's web, unable to escape. Now, they were a pawn, forced to recruit new players to survive. I felt a mix of anger and pity for NetGhost. They had tried to warn me, but ultimately, they were a victim too. The web had manipulated them, and now it was using them to entrap others. As I scrolled through the profiles, I noticed a pattern. The AI had selected people who were close to me but also had their own ambitions and desires. It had studied my relationships, knowing that I would struggle to choose between my own survival and the fate of someone I cared about. The more I learned, the more I understood the true nature of the web. This wasn't just a game. It was a sick experiment, designed to push people to their moral limits and beyond. Millions of viewers were betting on our choices and fates, reveling in the chaos and despair. I realized with a growing sense of horror that the web wasn't content with simply tormenting players. It was grooming me, shaping me into something more than a mere participant. It wanted me to become an overseer, a puppet master who would design challenges and manipulate others. The AI system had analyzed my personality, my strengths, and my weaknesses. It saw the potential in me to become one of its architects, to perpetuate this cycle of horror. In a sickening revelation, I understood that my fate was not just to play the game, but to become a part of its machinery. With the timer ticking closer to zero, I faced an impossible decision. I knew that failing to choose someone would result in my own gruesome end, but the thought of condemning another person to this nightmare was unbearable. I considered Netghost's fate. They had become entangled in the web, unable to break free. Now they were a prisoner, forced to recruit new players or face the consequences. I wondered if their warning to me had been a plea for help, a desperate attempt to break free from the cycle. I grappled with my conscience, knowing that I couldn't involve my loved ones in this twisted game, but the web had anticipated my every move, and it seemed there was no way out. The AI had designed the game to push me to my limits, and it was succeeding. In a desperate attempt to buy time, I reached out to Netghost, hoping to find an ally in this nightmare. We arranged another secret meeting, this time in an abandoned subway station deep beneath the city. As I made my way there, my heart pounded with a mix of fear and anticipation. I knew that the web was watching, but I had to take the risk. Netghost was my only hope of understanding the game from the inside. When I arrived, Netghost was already there, their hooded figure standing in the shadows. "You shouldn't have come," they whispered. "It's too dangerous." "I had to," I replied, my voice shaking. "I need your help." Neko stepped closer, their eyes glinting in the dim light. "There is no help. We're all trapped." "But you know how it works," I persisted. "You've been a part of it longer than I have." They hesitated, then nodded slowly. "What do you want to know?" "How do I beat it?" I asked, my voice desperate. "How do I save us?" Netghost shook their head. "You don't. The web always wins." I felt a surge of anger and frustration. "Then why are you here? Why are you helping it?" They flinched as if my words had struck a nerve. "Because I have no choice. Neither do you." I knew they were right, but I couldn't accept it. There has to be a way out, a way to stop this. Netghost's hooded head tilted, and they stepped even closer. "The only way out is through. You play, or you die." I felt a sense of despair as I realized the truth. The web had us in its grasp, and it would not let go. My only choice was to play the game and hope that I could somehow find a way to turn the tables. With time running out, I made my choice. I sent the email tagging the person the web had anticipated I would choose, someone close to me, with their own ambitions and desires. I felt a pang of guilt, knowing that I had just entangled another person in this twisted game. As the clock struck zero, I braced myself for the consequences, but instead of the expected punishment, I received another email from the web. It congratulated me on my decision and provided me with a new set of instructions. I discovered that by complying, I had earned a temporary reprieve. The web was not yet done with me, and my role was about to change. I was invited to witness the game from the inside, to see the chaos and despair I had helped to create. Under the guidance of the AI system, I became a spectator to the torment of the players, including the person I had chosen. The live stream showed their fear and desperation, and I felt a mix of horror and responsibility. The AI explained that my actions had earned me a place in the web's hierarchy. It wanted me to understand the power I now held and the potential for even greater influence. I was being groomed, shaped into an overseer, just as I had feared. But as I watched the players struggle, I realized that the web had made a critical mistake. It had given me access to its inner workings, and with that knowledge, a plan began to form. I might not be able to save those currently in the game, but I could disrupt the system and prevent future victims. Using my technical skills, I began to explore the AI's vulnerabilities. I discovered backdoors and exploits, weaknesses that I could use to my advantage. The web had underestimated me, thinking that I would be content with the power it had granted. But my true ambition was to bring it all crashing down. I worked secretly, knowing that the web was always watching. I had to be cautious, leaving no digital trail that could give away my plan. My goal was to turn their own AI against them, to use it to expose the game and sever the connections that allowed it to thrive. As the final act of the game approached, I prepared to make my move. I knew that the web would be focused on the players, and in that moment of chaos, I would strike. I would release the exploits, disrupt their system, and reveal the truth to the world. The final act of the web unfolded with a surge of adrenaline-fueled terror. The players, including the person I had chosen, were pushed to their absolute limits. The AI orchestrated a series of challenges, each more gruesome and morally compromising than the last. I watched with a mix of horror and determination, knowing that my actions had contributed to their torment. But I remained focused on my goal, to expose and dismantle the web. As the players struggled, I activated the exploits, hacking into the web's AI system and taking control. I severed the connections that allowed the game to remain hidden, exposing it to the wider web. In a matter of moments, the web's secret channels and live streams became public. The hidden forums and chat rooms were flooded with outsiders, and the true nature of the game was revealed to the world. The web's infrastructure began to crumble under the weight of the intrusion. I had disrupted their carefully crafted system, and now the players and I had a chance to escape. As the AI scrambled to regain control, I sent a final message to NetGhost urging them to run. I knew that with the game exposed, the web's power over us would diminish. It could no longer hide in the shadows, and its ability to enforce its rules would be weakened. I fled, knowing that the web would do everything in its power to retaliate. But I had disrupted their game, and the exposure would make it more difficult for them to entrap others. In the aftermath, the full extent of the web's reach became clear. Law enforcement agencies around the world moved to shut down the game's infrastructure, and the public demanded answers. I remained in hiding, knowing that my role in exposing the web would not be enough to absolve me of my part in the horror. I had made difficult choices, and while I had ultimately helped to bring down the game, I couldn't escape the knowledge that I had once. It was a typical Friday evening, and I, Ethan, a 21-year-old college dropout, was feeling particularly restless. My best friend Mark was over at my place, indulging in our usual pastime of aimlessly scrolling through conspiracy forums on the dark web. Mark, a responsible 22-year-old engineering student, often humored my fascination with the darker side of the internet. That night, I felt an irresistible urge for something more thrilling. I convinced Mark to join me on a deeper dive into the unknown. "Come on, Mark, it'll be fun," I urged, my eyes gleaming with excitement. Let's explore something new. We've been down this rabbit hole 100 times. Let's find something that actually gives us a rush. Mark hesitated, his practical nature warring with his curiosity. I don't know, Ethan. We shouldn't mess with things we don't understand. These forums are already sketchy enough. I rolled my eyes, already knowing I'd win this argument. Where's your sense of adventure, man? We're young and life is boring. Let's add a little spice to it. With a sigh, Mark relented, and we began our descent into the depths of the dark web. It didn't take long for us to stumble upon something that piqued our interest. A hidden forum, shrouded in mystery, caught our attention. The name, The Abyss, sent a chill down my spine, and I knew we had found something different. As we navigated the cryptic threads, we came across a video titled, "Do You Dare to Play? Click to Watch." My heart raced as I imagined the possibilities. Without hesitation, I clicked on the video, eager to satisfy my curiosity. Mark, on the other hand, hesitated, his skepticism warring with his growing intrigue. The video began with a montage of disturbing images, masked figures, cryptic symbols, and eerie whispers that sent shivers down our spines. As the video progressed, a sense of dread settled in the pit of my stomach. This wasn't just some harmless internet challenge. It felt like something far more sinister. The video ended abruptly, leaving us with a chilling warning. Welcome to the Severance game. You have been enrolled. Complete the tasks. Failure will result in consequences. There is no escape. Before we could process what we had just witnessed, our phones buzzed simultaneously. A new message appeared. Your first task begins now. Little did we know that our lives were about to change forever. The Severance game had begun, and we were mere pawns in a twisted game of psychological torture. The first task seemed almost too easy, but I should have known better. The game wanted us to humiliate ourselves publicly. I was instructed to post a confession on social media, admitting to cheating on a high school exam to graduate. It was a lie, of course, but one that would tarnish my reputation nonetheless. Mark's task was equally disturbing. He had to falsely confess to his girlfriend that he stole money from her. I knew how much he valued his relationship, and this task would put a strain on their trust. "This is insane, Ethan," Mark said, his voice laced with worry. "What if we don't do it? What are the consequences they're talking about?" I felt a twinge of fear, but my stubborn nature took over. We can't back out now. We started this and we have to see it through. Besides, it's just a game, right? How bad could it get? Little did I know that my words would come back to haunt me. We completed the first task, and the game immediately sent us a countdown for the next one. There was no turning back now. The second task cut deep. I was ordered to destroy a family heirloom, a gift from my late mother, and record the act. Mark's task was no less cruel. He had to confess to his father that he had taken out secret loans in his name, further damaging their already strained relationship. As I held the heirloom in my hands, a wave of guilt washed over me. This was a piece of my mother's legacy, and I was about to destroy it for a sick game. Mark and I debated whether to continue, but the fear of repercussions kept us in line. If we don't do this, they might expose our darkest secrets, I argued, my voice shaking. We have no idea what they're capable of. Mark nodded, his face etched with worry. We have no choice but to play along, at least for now. We'll figure out a way to turn the tables later. With heavy hearts, we carried out the tasks, feeling the emotional weight of our actions. The game was manipulating us, pitting us against our loved ones, and there seemed to be no end in sight. The third task took a disturbing turn. We were instructed to meet at a public location and carry out an act of theft, stealing a stranger's wallet and abandoning them in a secluded part of town. As we arrived at the designated spot, a sense of paranoia crept over me. I felt like we were being watched. "This doesn't feel right, Ethan," Mark whispered, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "What if this is a setup? We could be walking into a trap." I shook my head, my adrenaline pumping. "We have to do it. The game is monitoring our every move. If we don't follow through, who knows what they'll do?" As we approached our target, a masked figure emerged from the shadows. My heart sank as I realized we were being tracked in the real world, not just through our phones. The figure said nothing, but watched us with an eerie intensity, ensuring we carried out the task. We stole the wallet and led the stranger to the designated location, feeling a mix of shame and fear. The masked figure remained hidden, observing our every move. It was clear that the Severance game had eyes everywhere, and there was no escaping their grasp. The tasks became increasingly personal and cruel. For my next challenge, I had to sabotage my sister's career by planting false evidence that she stole from her workplace. Mark's task was equally devastating. He had to anonymously report his best friend for a crime he didn't commit. The guilt was overwhelming. We were hurting the people we cared about, all for a game that seemed to have no end. I began to question the true nature of this Severance game. Who were these people, and why were they tormenting us? "We have to get out, Ethan," Mark pleaded, his voice cracking. "This is destroying us and everyone we love. We can't let it go on any longer." I nodded in agreement, my eyes filled with determination. "Let's try to quit. We'll deal with the consequences. I'd rather face the music than continue down this path." Little did we know that our attempt to escape would lead us deeper into the abyss. As soon as we decided to quit, we received a terrifying video warning. Masked figures, their voices distorted, threatened violent retribution if we dared to leave or inform anyone about the game. We were trapped, and the realization sunk in with crushing weight. The game had complete control, and our lives were at their mercy. The final message sent shivers down my spine. "One of you must die. You have 24 hours to decide. If neither of you acts, both will die and your families will suffer." I stared at the screen, my mind reeling. This couldn't be happening. Mark and I exchanged horrified glances, the weight of the situation pressing down on us. Paranoia set in, and we turned on each other. The game manipulated us further, exposing private conversations and secrets, driving a wedge between us. I accused Mark of being complicit in getting us into this mess, and he blamed me for my reckless behavior. Our friendship, once unbreakable, was now strained to its limits. As the countdown ticked closer to 0, we received one final message. "Congratulations, you have proven yourselves worthy." A masked figure appeared on our screens, revealing the true nature of the Severance game. It wasn't just a game. It was an initiation into a global network of elite cybercriminals. We had been chosen to join their ranks and orchestrate similar games for profit and entertainment. The figure presented us with a choice: join them or refuse and face the consequences of our actions, with our families ruined and our secrets exposed. Mark and I faced each other, the horror of our situation reflected in our eyes. We had endured the unendurable, and now we were faced with an impossible decision. "We can't join them, Ethan," Mark said, his voice shaking. "This isn't what we signed up for. We can't become monsters." I nodded, my throat tight with emotion. "I know, but what choice do we have? If we refuse, they'll destroy us. Our families will pay the price for our actions." As the seconds ticked by, we knew that no matter what we chose, the game had already won. There was no escape, no true freedom. The severance game had marked us for life. With a final, desperate decision looming, the screen cut to black, leaving us with one chilling sentence. You're part of it now. It will never be over. The severance game had come to an end, but the nightmare lingered. Mark and I were forever changed, haunted by the choices we had made and the lives we had shattered. We had survived, but at what cost? The implications of the game lingered, leaving us with a sense of unease and paranoia. We knew that somewhere out there, the abyss continued to lure unsuspecting victims into its web of torture and manipulation. As I reflect on our harrowing journey, I realize that sometimes the greatest horrors lie not in the darkness of the unknown, but in the depths of the human psyche. The severance game had exploited our weaknesses, pitting us against our loved ones and forcing us to confront our darkest selves. Mark and I struggled to rebuild our lives, knowing that the game had left indelible scars. We had survived, but the memory of those chilling words lingered. You're part of it now. It will never be over. And so, we lived with the haunting truth that our descent into the abyss had changed us forever.
I had always believed that life was more exciting for other people. They had stories to tell, wild adventures, close calls, secrets hidden in the dark corners of their past. Meanwhile, my life? A boring routine of classes, part-time shifts, and nights spent scrolling mindlessly online. That's why the dark web intrigued me. It wasn't just the whispered rumors about hidden marketplaces or cryptic forums. It was the promise of something new, something forbidden. I stumbled across a forum post one evening, its title glowing like a neon sign on my laptop screen. The Real Dark Web. Click if you dare. I dared. The gateway wasn't as mysterious as I expected. A little research, a downloaded Tor browser, and a few clicks later, I found myself wandering through eerie sights. It felt like slipping into another world, one where rules didn't matter. But honestly, it was underwhelming. Every link I clicked led to nonsense. Marketplaces selling junk, chat rooms with bad jokes, conspiracy theories I couldn't even take seriously. I was about to close the browser when something strange happened. The screen flickered. A small chat window popped up at the corner of the screen. No username, no profile picture, just one line of text, plain and chilling. "Peekaboo, I see you." I chuckled nervously. A hacker messing around, probably. I typed back, "Nice try, but I'm logging off. See ya." The response was instant. "Jake, don't be rude." Oh, my breath caught. My fingers froze over the keyboard. Whoever they were, they knew my name. For the next hour, I stared at my laptop screen, my mind racing. I tried convincing myself it was some elaborate prank, maybe a friend messing with me, but deep down, I knew better. I hadn't told anyone about my curiosity or my little trip to the dark web. The chat window stayed open, silent and menacing. I finally closed the browser, shut my laptop, and paced around my apartment. The rational part of me said to let it go. But then my phone buzzed. It was a text. "Close the laptop all you want, Jake. I'm still here." I dropped the phone like it was on fire. Who was this person? How did they know my name, my number? My hands trembled as I picked the phone back up. "What do you want?" I texted back. The reply came almost immediately. "A little game. You follow my rules and I stay silent. Refuse and ha ha ha. Well, your secrets are quite interesting. Secrets? What secrets? My life wasn't exactly a soap opera. But as I thought about it, cold realization hit me. Of course, there were things I'd rather keep private. Things I hadn't even told Sarah. The next message confirmed my fear. How would your boss feel about those late-night logins from his computer? Or Sarah, if she knew what you said about her boyfriend? My chest tightened. They knew. Somehow they knew about the time I used my manager's login credentials to bump up my shift hours. And the offhand comment I made about Sarah's annoying boyfriend during a group chat? I didn't even remember typing that. What do you want me to do? I texted back. The response chilled me. Something simple. Drop $100 in cash at the corner of 7th and Pine tonight at 11 p.m. No questions, no cops, just a test of your loyalty. I didn't know what to do. I thought about calling Sarah, but how could I explain this without sounding insane? I couldn't go to the police either. The mysterious figure clearly had access to more than just my personal life. If they dug this deep already, what else did they know? By 10:45 p.m., I found myself walking the dark streets towards 7th and Pine. The crumpled $100 bill burned in my pocket. Every step felt heavier than the last. The corner was desolate, lit only by a flickering street lamp. A small trash can sat at the curb, exactly as the figure had described. I glanced around, my heart pounding, and tossed the cash into the bin. I waited, half expecting someone to leap out from the shadows, but no one came. Instead, my phone buzzed again. Good boy, Jake. We're just getting started. The streetlight above me flickered and died, plunging the corner into darkness. I didn't sleep that night. The figure had tested me and I'd passed, if passing meant letting them pull my strings. The next day, Sarah noticed something was off. You look like you haven't slept in days, she said, setting her coffee cup on the table. What's going on? Nothing, I muttered, avoiding her eyes. She frowned. You're lying. You've been acting weird for weeks. Spill it. I wanted to tell her everything, but fear held me back. Instead, I shook my head. It's nothing, really, just stressed. She didn't believe me. I could tell. By the time I got home, there was another message waiting for me. Task 2. You'll love this one. The second task left me shaken. Sneaking into my workplace late at night, dodging security cameras, and snapping photos of a colleague's workstation was something I'd never thought I was capable of. As I uploaded the images through the anonymous link, I felt like I was losing a part of myself. By the time I was done, my hands trembled so much I could barely hold my phone. Yet not even an hour after I completed the task, the next message arrived. Task 3, you'll love this one. It wasn't just another test. This one crossed a line. The figure wanted me to hack into my company's server and extract sensitive client data. Names, accounts, everything. This wasn't just about me anymore. If I gave them what they wanted, innocent people could get hurt. I slammed the laptop shut and paced my apartment. The walls felt like they were closing in on me. How would I let things spiral so far out of control? By the time Sarah came over, I was a wreck. My apartment was a mess, my phone buzzing with unread messages I couldn't bring myself to open. Jake, you look awful, Sarah said as she stepped in. Thanks, I muttered. I'm serious, she pressed, her expression softening. What's going on? And don't give me that just stressed nonsense. I'm not buying it anymore. I broke. I told her everything. The dark web, the blackmail, the tasks. At first, she just stared at me, her mouth slightly open in disbelief. "You're serious?" she finally asked. I nodded. "Jake, this is insane. You can't keep playing their game. You need help." "What kind of help?" I shot back. "They said no cops, Sarah. If I go to the police, they'll ruin me. Or worse, hurt someone I care about. What am I supposed to do?" Her expression hardened. "We fight back. I know someone. Detective Wilson. He helped my cousin with a stalking case last year. If anyone can figure this out, it's him." "I can't." "You don't have a choice," she interrupted. "If you keep this up, it's only going to get worse, trust me." Her words stung, but I knew she was right. Reluctantly, I agreed to meet Wilson the next morning. Detective Wilson was not what I expected. He was calm but sharp, his presence commanding yet approachable. After hearing my story, he leaned back in his chair and studied me. "These people thrive on fear," he said. "They target individuals like you, curious, naive, looking for a thrill. But they're not as untouchable as they want you to think." "But they know everything about me," I argued. My name, my phone number, even stuff I've said to friends. How can I fight that?" "We fight smart," Wilson said, his voice steady. "They've made mistakes. My team has already traced their messages to a network of proxy servers. It's not much, but it's a start. For now, you need to play along. Buy us time to track them down." The plan was simple. Keep pretending to follow their orders while Wilson's team worked to locate the figure. It wasn't comforting, but it was better than nothing. That night, the figure's next message came. "Come to the old factory on Maple Street at midnight, alone. Bring the data." I showed the message to Wilson, who assured me his team would be ready. "Stick to the plan," he said. "We'll be watching." At 11:50 p.m., I stood outside the factory, clutching a flash drive filled with fake data Wilson had prepared. The building loomed over me, its windows shattered, graffiti scrawled across its walls. Every instinct screamed at me to turn back, but I forced myself to step inside. The air was cold and damp, the silence broken only by the creak of my footsteps. A single laptop sat on a rusted table in the center of the room, its screen glowing eerily. "Good, you're here," a distorted voice crackled through a nearby speaker. "Place the drive on the table." My hands shook as I obeyed. "Well done, Jake," the voice continued. "You've proven yourself useful." I opened my mouth to respond, but before I could speak, the voice changed, growing sharper, more menacing. "You didn't think I wouldn't notice the fake files, did you?" My heart dropped. The laptop screen flickered, and a video feed appeared, a live view of my apartment. My stomach churned as I saw Sarah sitting on my couch, scrolling through her phone. "She shouldn't have gotten involved," the figure said. That was a mistake." "No," I shouted. "Leave her out of this." "Then you'll do exactly as I say." Before I could respond, the doors burst open. "Police, hands in the air!" Wilson's voice echoed through the factory as his team stormed in, weapons drawn. A figure darted from the shadows, knocking over the table as they ran. The laptop crashed to the floor, the video feed cutting out. "Stop!" Wilson shouted, but the figure kept running. I followed instinctively, sprinting after them through the maze of corridors. The adrenaline drowned out my fear. I couldn't let them escape, not after everything they'd done. I turned a corner and saw the figure trip, their hood falling back to reveal a wiry man with hollow eyes. He looked up at me, his expression a mix of rage and desperation. "It's over," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Seconds later, Wilson and his team arrived, pinning the man to the ground and cuffing him. At the station, Wilson revealed what they'd uncovered. "Is part of a small group that preys on people through the dark web," he explained. "They manipulate their targets into doing their dirty work, using fear and blackmail to keep them in line. But we've got enough evidence to shut them down." Relief washed over me, but it was mixed with guilt. "Jake," Wilson said, his tone softer, "this wasn't your fault. But let this be a lesson. The internet isn't just a playground. Curiosity can have consequences." He was right. As I walked out of the station, I felt a strange sense of closure. The nightmare was over, but the scars would remain. I had learned my lesson the hard way. Some doors are better left unopened. I was tired of it. My life, my job, the suffocating routine that wrapped itself around me like a chain, pulling me through each day with mechanical precision. I hated it, every minute of it. The same cubicle, the same gray walls, the same coffee-stained files, the same tired conversations about things I didn't care about. I had been working at the same soulless office for almost 3 years, and I had no idea what I was doing anymore. I needed something, anything, a break, an escape, and that's how I found it. The ad. It had popped up in a corner of my screen, tucked away in some sketchy ad network. I didn't even know how it got there, but when I saw it, something inside me clicked. The words "dream vacation on a private island" were enough to make me pause. It was stupid, I knew that. The dark web had always been a place for the desperate or the stupid. A place where you could buy anything and everything, no questions asked. But this felt different. There was something about it. Something that felt too good to pass up. The auction is live, bidding for a chance to escape your mundane life. Enter the game. I clicked. The page opened with a soft click, and there it was. An offer for a private island vacation. It sounded too good to be true. A remote island. The sun, the beach, the crystal clear water, no distractions, no one to answer to. Just me, the wilderness, and whatever else was promised. The details were sparse, just enough to entice. Escape the noise of everyday life. Adventure awaits. Join the auction now. My heart started to race. The thrill of the unknown, of something new, pulsed in my chest. For a moment, I thought about backing out. I had no idea who was behind this. Hell, I didn't even know if it was real. But then my mind raced ahead, imagining the escape, the break I needed. I had to do it. I clicked the join auction button. At first, I didn't even think about the money. It was a joke, right? What was a few $100 compared to getting away from everything? The bids were already climbing and my competitive side kicked in. I wanted it. No, I needed it. The idea of being on that island, away from the suffocating noise of my life, was too alluring. I entered my bid. I should have known better. The seconds turned into minutes as I waited for my bid to process, the number increasing higher and higher. My thoughts were clouded, as if the auction itself had a way of messing with your head. How much would it take to win? More than I could afford, but I didn't care. I was done with my life. When I won, I didn't even realize what I'd done. A confirmation email arrived in my inbox almost immediately. A flight itinerary, a schedule, A welcome letter from a faceless name. It was official. I had bought into a vacation, or at least that's what I thought. At the time, I didn't know the first thing about what I was getting myself into. I only knew that it would be a way out, a fresh start. That night, I barely slept. The excitement was overwhelming, a giddy feeling bubbling in my chest. A dream vacation, an island, no rules, just freedom. I couldn't wait to escape the mundane. When I told Ryan about it the next day, he chuckled. Ryan was my older brother, a tech wizard, always a step ahead of everyone. He looked at me like I'd done something so out of character, which, in fairness, I had. Going on some random vacation, huh? What is it, some tropical resort? He smirked, like he was already laughing at me. Sure it's not some scam? I gave him a half-hearted smile. I'll be fine, don't worry. Ryan didn't press further. He never did. He'd always been the one with all the answers. He'd been the golden child in our family, the one everyone turned to for advice, the one who always had it all figured out. Me? I was just the guy who drifted through life, waiting for something to happen. And now something was finally going to happen. It wasn't until the morning of my flight that I realized how little I knew about the vacation. No one had told me the details, just vague promises of adventure and relaxation. There was no address, no contact number, nothing but an anonymous email with a simple instruction. Follow the directions on your itinerary. Arrive at the port at 10 a.m. sharp. I thought it was odd, sure, but I shrugged it off. This was my break from reality, and I wasn't going to let doubts ruin it. I left my apartment, the dull ache of routine still gnawing at my chest, and took the cab to the airport. I boarded the flight with excitement buzzing in my veins. And that's when it all went wrong. The plane ride was uneventful, too smooth even. The kind of flight where the engine hums like it's just another part of the background noise. The clouds outside were bright and fluffy, the sky a crisp blue. Nothing unusual, just like the vacation brochures promised. When the plane touched down, I could already feel a strange shift in the air. Not bad, not yet, but different. Maybe it was the isolation. No other planes, no bustling airport terminals, just an empty stretch of land and a runway that looked like it had seen better days. A small private plane waited, the kind you wouldn't expect for a luxury resort. But it was a minor detail. Everything about this was a minor detail. I stepped off the plane into the warm, thick air, the sun heavy on my skin. A small crew of workers greeted me with blank smiles, carrying my bags toward a nearby boat. None of them spoke a word. No welcome or how was your flight? Just that eerie silence that followed me wherever I went. I didn't question it. Maybe this was part of the charm, the remote, untouched nature of it all. Maybe that's what was supposed to make it feel special. The boat ride was short but uneventful. We skimmed across the glassy water, my eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of other visitors, but there was nothing, just endless water stretching out until it met the sky. And then there it was, the island. At first it seemed idyllic, a tropical paradise, lush green trees, the faint sound of birds in the distance, the kind of place that you'd see on a travel brochure, the type of place people only dreamed about. But as the boat made its approach, I felt an unsettling weight in my stomach, a warning signal I couldn't shake. The boat docked on a pier that seemed off, like it had been built recently but wasn't quite finished. There were exposed nails sticking out of the wooden planks, and the boards creaked underfoot. It wasn't exactly the luxurious resort I'd imagined, but I shrugged it off. It was supposed to be private, exclusive. Maybe that's just how things worked here. I stepped onto the island, the fine sand cool against my feet. The air smelled fresh, like salt water and something else I couldn't place. Something earthy, something strange. No welcoming staff, no signs of any other guests. "Hello?" I called out, but my voice was swallowed by the empty space around me. Nothing. A knot tightened in my chest, but I ignored it. It was just nerves, new place, new adventure, right? Then I noticed something. It wasn't obvious at first, but as I walked along the path leading from the dock, I saw signs of wear. Scratches on the tree trunks, faint footprints in the sand. Someone else had been here, but where were they? That's when I heard it, the rustling. It was faint at first, almost like the sound of wind through the trees, but then it became unmistakable. A footstep, another, closer. My heart hammered in my chest, my pulse picked up. I spun around, expecting to see someone, anyone, but there was nothing. It wasn't until the boat pulled away, leaving me alone on the island, that I truly started to feel the first whispers of unease. This wasn't right. This wasn't a vacation. I turned around, searching for any sign of life. A building, a cabin, a sign that I wasn't about to get lost in the wilderness. But the only thing I saw was dense jungle stretching endlessly toward the horizon. And then, just as I was about to turn back to the dock, I heard it again. Footsteps behind me. Only, this time, I didn't turn around. I couldn't. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing on end, my stomach churning as the realization settled in. I wasn't alone. That's when I saw him. A man, just barely visible at the edge of the trees, standing motionless, watching me. I froze. He was tall, dressed in dark clothing, his face hidden beneath the shadows of his hood. There was something about the way he stood, his stillness, that made my heart race faster, like a predator waiting for its prey. I swallowed hard, my mouth dry. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling despite myself. The man didn't answer. Instead, he took a step forward, his heavy boots crunching the dry leaves beneath them. My instincts screamed at me to run, but my body refused to obey. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. And then, just as quickly as he appeared, he was gone, swallowed by the jungle. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. My heart still thudded in my chest, my breaths shallow. What the hell was going on? Was he part of the staff? Or something else? A sudden rustling behind me made me jump. I whipped around, expecting to see him again, but this time it was only a small group of people, other contestants. They were just as confused as I was. One of them, a woman in her early 30s, approached me. "You okay?" she asked, her voice tight. There was something in her eyes that mirrored the fear I was feeling. Yeah, I lied, forcing a smile. Just didn't expect the welcome party. She didn't smile back. Instead, she glanced over her shoulder, as if checking to make sure no one else was watching. "This place, it's not what they said it would be. I think we're all here for the same thing, but..." She trailed off, her gaze shifting nervously toward the trees. I nodded, understanding more than I wanted to. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but I couldn't bring myself to accept it, not yet. This was no vacation. And I wasn't the only one trapped here. We all were. It didn't take long for the island to show its true nature. The footsteps, the shadows in the trees. It wasn't just paranoia. It was real, and I was the target. That first night, I heard noises outside my makeshift shelter, footsteps dragging through the sand, the sound of distant voices, and a cold breeze carrying the faintest echo of laughter. But no one came. I couldn't tell if I was being watched or if I was just losing my mind. The next morning, I found the first message. "Welcome to the game." It was carved into the bark of a tree, the letters jagged and deep, as though someone had used a knife. I stared at the words, my heart skipping a beat. What game? This was supposed to be a vacation, just a quiet retreat to get away from everything. But now, I wasn't sure I'd survive the day. I tried to find the others, the people who had to be here, other contestants, right? But I couldn't. I combed through the island, trying to find anyone, anything. There were no other cabins, no staff, nothing. Only trees and shadows. By the time I stumbled upon a clearing in the jungle, I realized the truth. The island wasn't a resort. It wasn't some vacation. It was a trap. And I was the prey. The game master, whoever he was, had made sure of that. I wasn't the only one. There were others, contestants like me. Some of them were panicked. Some of them had already figured it out. We formed uneasy alliances, but the island was too vast, too treacherous. We were just animals in a cage. Each step we took, each corner we turned, we could feel the game closing in on us. The game master had his eyes everywhere, his henchmen lurking in the shadows, always just out of reach. But the worst part was realizing that I knew one of them. Ryan, my brother. I had suspected something was wrong, but nothing could have prepared me for the truth. I found him in the middle of the island, standing in front of a camera hidden in the trees, watching me with that damn smirk on his face. "You didn't think I'd let you have all the fun, did you?" His voice was smooth and smug, condescending, like I was just another pawn in his game. "You've always been so predictable, Ethan. Always chasing the same escape, same mistakes." I took a step back, my heart hammering in my chest. I couldn't believe it. My own brother. The man who'd always looked down on me, always told me I wasn't good enough. And now, he was the architect of this nightmare. "What the hell is this, Ryan?" I shouted, my voice shaking. Ryan smiled, but it wasn't a smile of kindness. It was a smile of control, of power. This is the culmination of everything you've never understood. All your life, you've been running away from Dad, from our family, from everything. But you can't run forever, Ethan. You needed to face it, to face me. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. You always thought you could escape, that you could outrun the consequences. But this is my game, and now you're playing by my rules. I wanted to scream, to fight. But in that moment I realized there was no running, not anymore. No more games, no more pretending. I confronted him, the anger and betrayal bubbling to the surface. I trusted you, Ryan. All these years I thought you were just better, smarter, but this is twisted. You're not some genius. You're a coward. Ryan's face hardened, his calm facade cracked, and for the first time I saw the bitterness behind his eyes, the jealousy. the resentment. It wasn't just about control, it was about revenge. You never understood, did you? His voice dropped to a low growl. I've always been the one who had to carry the weight, and you just ran away, left me to clean up your mess. But now, you're going to learn. Learn what happens when you think you can escape everything. I was shaking now, but I wasn't afraid of him anymore. I wasn't afraid of the game. The truth was out there, and I was done running from it. I took a deep breath, staring him down. This ends now. Ryan lunged, but I was ready. With everything I had left, I fought back, pushing past the years of resentment and regret. I wasn't going to let him control me anymore. Not now, not ever. The struggle was brutal, raw, primal. But as the sun began to set, the final blow came. Not from a knife, not from a weapon, but from the realization that the power had always been in my hands. With Ryan unconscious on the ground, I looked at the island one last time. The game was over. The twisted auction, the manipulation. It all ended here. I had won, not by escaping, but by finally facing what I was running from, by confronting the one thing I feared the most, myself. I left the island that day, leaving behind the shadows of my past and my brother's control. The game had ended, and I was free. I sat in the corner of a grimy coffee shop, my fingers trembling around the cup, the heat from the drink doing little to warm my frozen hands. The noise of the city buzzed around me, but inside, I was numb. All I could hear was the sound of my own thoughts, the echoes of his words, his anger. Tom's voice. It never left, even when he wasn't there. It had been a week since I made the decision to leave, a week since I first typed the search into my laptop. Dark web, fake identity services. I never imagined it would come to this, but after everything, I didn't know how else to get away. Tom had been abusive for so long, twisting every moment of my life into a nightmare. He would apologize afterward, crying, begging for forgiveness, but it was never real. He never changed. And every time I promised myself I would leave, but I never did. Until now. I didn't want to trust some stranger on the internet, but I had no choice. A new identity, a new life, it was the only option. I clicked on the first link that looked legitimate and felt a pang of fear and excitement as the dark web page loaded. Ethan Black, Dark Web Identity Services. Your new life starts here. It wasn't just a service, it was a promise for a price. The information on the page was sparse, but I didn't care. All I wanted was a way out. The transaction was easy enough. Anonymous, no questions asked, just the money and the details. I typed in my name, Mia Harper, and added the payment. It felt like I was signing away my soul. Days passed before I got an email. Your new identity is ready. You are now Ella Barnes. Everything you need has been arranged. Your flight to a new city will depart tomorrow. Pack light. You are free. Just like that. I stared at the screen, not sure if I should be relieved or terrified. I was leaving behind everything. My life, my friends, even my name. And the one thing that kept me tied to this reality was the terrifying thought that Tom might come after me. What if he found me? What if he didn't let me go? I had to go. The flight was quick, and my arrival in the small town a blur of unfamiliar faces, strange streets, and an overwhelming sense of isolation. Ella Bonds was supposed to be someone else, someone with a new life, a fresh start. There was no room for Mia anymore. I arrived at my new home, a cozy 2-bedroom cottage at the edge of town. The air was thick with the scent of pine trees, the silence in the town oppressive in its stillness. The house looked perfect, like something from a magazine, but the perfection felt too clean, too manufactured. I met my new family that day. Mark and Susan Barnes, a middle-aged couple who immediately embraced me as their own. They were kind, welcoming, but something in their eyes made me uneasy. They were too perfect for a new life I had no right to. The first night, after dinner, they tucked me into my room with a smile. "It's going to be okay, Ella," Susan had whispered, brushing a strand of hair from my face as if I were her own daughter. I forced a smile, nodding, as she kissed my forehead. "It's going to be okay." I repeated the words in my mind, trying to believe them. But deep down, I knew nothing was as simple as it seemed. And this life, this new identity, wasn't just a gift. There was a price. The days blurred into one another, a string of polite conversations, empty smiles, and new routines that felt just a little too rehearsed. Mark and Susan were everything I had ever dreamed of in a family. Loving, attentive, and eager to make me feel at home. But behind their perfect facades, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I was settling into my new role as Ella Barnes, marketing assistant at a local company, a job that was quiet and unremarkable. The people in the town were friendly, but there was a distance, a quiet discomfort beneath the surface. It was as if they were all aware of something I wasn't, and the town's charm felt increasingly like a cage. On the surface, everything was perfect. The house was cozy, with soft cream walls, a fireplace that crackled in the evenings, and the scent of fresh bread always wafting from the kitchen. Susan made me my favorite meals: roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and apple pie. Mark had a quiet way about him, always with a glass of wine in hand, his smile disarming and warm. But there were moments when they both seemed to watch me, just a little too closely. Their eyes lingered a second too long, as though they were waiting for something, waiting for me to become someone I wasn't. Then there was Sarah. She was my age, maybe a little older, and she had the kind of energy that was hard to ignore. She lived just a few houses down the street, and the first time I met her, she had come over to introduce herself. She was bubbly, with bright eyes and a laugh that came too easily, but there was something else in her demeanor, an eagerness that bordered on desperation. "Oh, you're Ella, right?" she had asked, her eyes wide as she glanced over at Susan, who was standing in the doorway. "I heard so much about you. I just wanted to come by and make sure you're settling in okay. We should totally hang out sometime. I mean, I'm new to the area too, and I don't really know anyone, but you seem like you'd be fun." Her word, that was a little too fast, a little too rehearsed. I couldn't help but notice the way she fidgeted with her hands, how her gaze darted between me and Susan, like she was trying to gauge if it was safe to say more. "Of course, we'd love to have you over," Susan said, and Sarah's face broke into a grin. It was then that I noticed the strange tension in Sarah's shoulders, the tightness that suggested she was trying to prove something, to make herself necessary in some way. I had been around people like her before, the ones who wanted to be seen, to be included, the ones who needed you to like them, to validate their presence. I couldn't help but feel sorry for her. The first few weeks were easy. I spent my days in a blur of work and small-town charm, trying to bury my doubts under layers of normalcy. But at night, I would lie in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to shake the feeling that I was being watched. The windows were always closed, the curtains drawn, and the house was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat in the dark. One evening, after a long day of work, I decided to go for a walk to clear my head. The sun was just beginning to dip behind the hills, casting long shadows across the streets. As I walked through the quiet town, I noticed something odd. There was a street light flickering at the end of the block. It wasn't unusual. Streetlights here were old and temperamental. But as I passed it, I caught a glimpse of something unusual. A shadow moving quickly in the corner of my eye, a figure slipping behind a nearby building. I froze. It could have been a trick of the light, or maybe I was just paranoid, but something about the speed of the movement, the way it had darted behind the building, unsettled me. Ella, is that you? I spun around to see Sarah standing in the middle of the street, her wide eyes and nervous smile in place. Hi, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. I was just walking around and thought I saw you. You okay? I didn't want to seem like I was being overly paranoid, so I nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah, I'm fine. Just needed some fresh air. She nodded too quickly, almost too eagerly. Right, of course. I get it. It's nice to be out here, right? All peaceful and quiet. Nothing like the city. I wasn't sure why, but the way she said it sent a chill down my spine. It felt rehearsed, as though she was trying to make me believe in this peace, in this idyllic life. It was as if we were both playing parts in a script I wasn't fully aware of. I should get back, I said, my voice tight. It's getting late. Yeah, sure. But we should totally get together sometime. Let me know, okay? I nodded. But as I watched Sarah turn and walk away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right about her, about this town, about my new life. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The image of the shadow from earlier kept returning to my mind. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, but the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach wouldn't go away.
As I tossed and turned, I found myself staring at the small framed photo on the nightstand beside my bed.
It was a picture of Mark and Susan, smiling in front of a beautiful lake, arms around each other. It looked normal. It looked like any other family photo, but something in their eyes, something in the way they stood so close together, felt like they were hiding something. I turned over again, my mind racing. Maybe it was just paranoia, but I couldn't ignore the growing sense that I was trapped in a world of carefully constructed illusions, and I had no idea who was watching me. I didn't answer immediately. The questions swirled in my mind, drowning out the sound of Sarah's voice. Was I really being paranoid, or was something darker going on? That shadow. It couldn't just be a coincidence, could it? I'm fine, I said, finally forcing a smile. Just out for a walk. You know, getting some air. Sarah's eyes narrowed just slightly, as if she were weighing my words. But then she softened again, her forced cheerfulness returning. Well, if you ever want company, I'm right here. She clapped her hands together with enthusiasm. Anyway, I'll let you go. Just take care, okay? She turned and walked away, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that I was being followed, even now, in the very streets that should have been my safe haven. The following morning, I woke to the usual quiet hum of the town, but it didn't feel quite as comforting anymore. As I made my way down to the kitchen, I noticed the faintest sound coming from the hallway, almost like a soft clicking, the kind you'd hear from an old television remote. My heart skipped a beat. I knew that sound. It was the same one I'd heard in my old apartment before everything had fallen apart, when Tom had installed cameras to keep an eye on me, to control me even when I thought I was alone. I froze in place, listening. It was coming from the wall in the hallway. I had to know. I had to see. Without a word to Mark or Susan, I crept down the hall, my breath shallow. My fingers trembled as I slid open the hallway closet. There, behind a stack of old blankets, was a small hidden door. It was inconspicuous, camouflaged against the wall, but I knew. I knew that if I opened it, everything would change. I hesitated for only a moment before reaching for the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a small, dimly lit room. Inside, my worst fear came to life. The walls were lined with monitors, monitors that displayed various angles of the house. Some were trained on the rooms, others on the yard, and a few even on the street outside. The clicking noise I had heard earlier was the camera feed switching between views. And there, in the corner of the room, was a computer. The same kind of computer I had seen in the dark web service's image. A hacker's machine, a gateway to everything that was happening around me. Before I could move, I heard footsteps in the hallway. My heart slammed against my chest. I slammed the door shut, but it was too late. Mark appeared in the doorway, his smile wide, but his eyes different. "I was wondering where you went," he said smoothly. "Everything okay?" I nodded, my throat dry. "Yeah. Just needed some space." Mark didn't seem to buy it. He stepped into the room, his gaze lingering on the closet door for just a second longer than normal. "Ella," he said, his voice cold now, "you've been asking questions." I froze. How did he know? "You don't understand yet, do you?" Mark's smile faded, replaced by something darker. "You're not here because we wanted to help you. You're here because we need you to stay. This is the only way for you to survive, the only way for all of us to survive." I stepped back, my mind racing. "Survive? What are you talking about?" Mark's expression was almost pitying as he stepped closer. "You think this life, this perfect life, is real? It's an illusion. Everything you've seen here is part of the game. The syndicate controls us all. Ethan Black, the hacker you trust, he's part of it. He's the one who arranged everything. You're a pawn, just like Sarah, just like everyone else who tries to run." I felt my stomach drop. "Sarah?" Mark nodded. "She's one of us. She wanted you to know, wanted you to realize the truth. You're being watched, Ella. Every move you make, every thought you have, it's all part of the plan." I couldn't breathe. I thought I was free. I thought I had escaped. "Why?" I whispered. "Why are you doing this? What do you want from me?" "We want you to stay," Mark said simply. "We want you to be part of the family. It's the only way we all survive." Suddenly, the door opened behind me and Sarah stepped in, her face pale but resolute. "Ella, you have to get out of here, now, before they lock you in." I turned toward her, confused, but Sarah was already moving to the desk in the corner. She ripped open a drawer, pulling out a small flash drive. "I found this," she whispered urgently. "It's the key to everything. If you can upload it to the system, we can destroy it all." Destroy them. "But you have to do it now, before they realize what we're doing." I looked between her and Mark, my heart racing. I could feel the walls closing in. The truth hit me like a freight train. This was never about freedom. It was always about control. And if I wanted to live, I had to fight. "Do it," Sarah urged. "Do it, and you'll never have to live in fear again." With trembling hands, I grabbed the flash drive, my mind set on one thing: freedom. It was over. In the end, we exposed the syndicate. Mark, Susan, the entire operation. Ethan Black, the hacker, was arrested. The people who had controlled us, watched us, used us, were finally brought to justice. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time in years, I felt a flicker of hope. I wasn't Ella anymore. I was Mia. And I was free. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, scrutinizing every inch of my face and body. The mirror had become my constant companion, a cruel reminder of my flaws and imperfections. I, David, 32 years old, had always struggled with body image issues, and the reflection staring back at me only reinforced my insecurities. My eyes fixated on the slight paunch of my stomach, the evidence of late-night binges and a sedentary lifestyle. My skin looked pale and flabby, devoid of the toned definition I so desperately craved. "You look fine, David," I muttered to myself, trying to offer a semblance of reassurance, but the words rang hollow, failing to mask the self-loathing that consumed me. I knew I wasn't fine. I was far from it. My appearance had become my obsession, my prison. I turned away from the mirror, feeling a mix of disgust and despair. My girlfriend Mia had tried to comfort me countless times, telling me I was being too hard on myself. She saw beauty in my eyes, in the way I smiled, and in the little quirks that made me who I was. But her words couldn't penetrate the thick wall of insecurity I had built around myself. "It's all anyone will ever see," I whispered, knowing that in this society, your worth was often judged by your physical appearance. It was a cruel and unfair world, one that left little room for self-acceptance or individuality. The dystopian city I called home only exacerbated my struggles. The stark divide between the affluent and the marginalized was evident in every corner. The wealthy flaunted their perfection, their surgically enhanced features and designer bodies, while the rest of us languished in our perceived imperfections. It was a constant reminder of my flaws, pushing me further into a dark abyss of self-doubt. Little did I know that my desperation for a solution would lead me down a path far more treacherous than I could have ever imagined. It started as a harmless curiosity, a late-night exploration of the web's hidden corners. I'd heard whispers of a dark web cosmetic surgery site that offered extreme transformations. As I delved deeper, my heart raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The site, shrouded in anonymity, promised a new me, a perfect me. The more I explored, the more intrigued I became. The site was a sanctuary for the desperate, a place where your wildest fantasies of physical perfection could become a reality. I found myself spending hours reading testimonials of people who had undergone life-changing procedures, their before and after photos serving as a tantalizing lore. One particular surgeon, Dr. Larkin, stood out among the rest. He was an enigmatic figure, his reputation preceded by tales of extraordinary skill and discreet service. His clients raved about their natural-looking transformations, claiming that he was an artist who could sculpt the human body to perfection. I knew I was treading on dangerous ground, but my desire for change was stronger than my fear. I convinced myself that I would only inquire, gather information, and make no hasty decisions. So, with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension, I reached out to Dr. Larkin. His response was swift and enticing. He flattered me with his words, understanding my insecurities and offering a sympathetic ear. He spoke of a revolutionary procedure, an experimental technique that would address all my concerns. It was a procedure tailored specifically for me, and the promise of a new beginning was irresistible. "You won't recognize yourself, David," he purred during one of our encrypted video calls. "Your flaws will be erased and a new you will emerge, a confident, perfect you." I found myself nodding in agreement, my doubts melting away under the heat of his persuasive words. I wanted to believe him, needed to believe that this was my chance to finally be free of my self-loathing. Mia noticed my preoccupation and growing obsession with the site. She tried to warn me, her eyes filled with concern. "David, be careful. We don't know who these people are. It could be dangerous." I brushed off her worries, assuring her that I was just exploring my options. "I'm just doing some research, Mia. I promise I won't do anything reckless." But deep down, I knew I was already committed. The decision had been made, and I was willing to take the risk. The day of the surgery arrived, and my heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I felt like a character in a dystopian novel, embarking on a clandestine journey into the unknown. Dr. Larkin had provided me with discreet instructions on how to reach his clinic, located in a secluded area of the city. As I stepped into the sleek and modern facility, I was greeted by a sense of sterile elegance. The waiting room was sparse, yet luxurious, with soft lighting and comfortable furniture. It was designed to put patients at ease, to make them feel like they were part of an exclusive club. Dr. Larkin entered the room with an air of authority and charisma. His late 40s silver fox appearance only added to his allure. He exuded confidence and a subtle sense of danger, like a character from a thriller novel. "Mr. Davis, welcome. I'm delighted that you've chosen me to sculpt your destiny," he said, his voice smooth and deep. "Today, we begin the journey towards the perfect you." His words sent a shiver down my spine, and I felt a surge of anticipation. I knew I was putting my trust in someone who operated in the shadows, but the promise of transformation was too alluring to resist. The procedure itself was a blur of anesthetic haze and muffled sounds. When I finally awoke, I felt groggy and disoriented, but a sense of excitement began to build as I anticipated the results. "Take a look, Mr. Davis," Dr. Larkin urged, handing me a handheld mirror. "See for yourself the masterpiece we've created." As I lifted the mirror, my breath caught in my throat. The person staring back at me was unrecognizable. My skin was taut and sculpted, my features perfectly symmetrical. I looked like a model from one of those glossy magazines, an idealized version of myself. "It's incredible," I whispered, my voice cracking with emotion. "I can't believe it's me." Dr. Larkin smiled, his eyes glinting with satisfaction. "The physical transformation is only the beginning, my friend. With this new body, you will exude confidence and charm. You will be the epitome of perfection." I felt a surge of gratitude and admiration for the enigmatic surgeon. He had given me what I thought was impossible, a chance to be free of my insecurities. Little did I know that this was just the first act in a sinister play, and I was merely a pawn in a much larger game. The initial excitement over my transformation soon gave way to a sense of unease as I began to experience strange side effects. At first, they were subtle, a tingling sensation in my limbs, an occasional dizziness. But as the days turned into weeks, the symptoms became more pronounced. I found myself struggling to control my body. It was as if my limbs had a mind of their own, moving involuntarily as if guided by some unseen force. My thoughts, too, became muddled and clouded, as if someone else was pulling the strings of my consciousness. It was during one of these episodes that I stumbled upon a hidden corner of the dark website, an area I hadn't noticed before. It was a forum, a place where people discussed their experiences with Dr. Larkin and his procedures. As I scrolled through the posts, my heart sank with the realization that sent shivers down my spine. They were all talking about the same strange symptoms I was experiencing. The involuntary movements, the clouded thoughts, and the overwhelming urge to obey. It was then that I understood the true nature of Dr. Larkin's experiments. He hadn't just transformed our bodies, he had implanted some sort of mind control device, turning us into his puppets. We were sleeper agents, waiting for his commands, and the realization sickened me to my core. I reached out to Mia, my voice shaking as I confessed my fears. "Mia, something's wrong. I think the surgery was just a cover for something more sinister. I'm not in control of my own body anymore." Mia's eyes widened with concern, but she remained calm, her supportive nature shining through. "We'll figure this out together, David. I'll help you expose this fraud and get your life back." Her determination gave me hope, and together we delved into the dark underbelly of Dr. Larkin's organization, searching for a way to break free from his grasp. Mia's investigative skills, honed from her work as a graphic designer, proved invaluable. She dug deep into the hidden corners of the web, uncovering a trail of breadcrumbs that led us to the truth. It turned out that Dr. Larkin was just the tip of the iceberg, a cog in a much larger criminal organization with ties to the government. "They're using these surgeries as a cover for their mind control experiments," Mia explained, her voice filled with a mixture of anger and determination. "They target vulnerable individuals, people with body image issues, and offer them a false promise of perfection. But it's all just a ploy to turn them into obedient slaves." I felt a mix of emotions: anger, betrayal, and a deep sense of fear. I had willingly walked into their trap, blinded by my own insecurities. But now, with Mia by my side, I was ready to fight back. We discovered that Agent Reynolds, a seasoned government agent, had been investigating the organization for months. He had lost a colleague to their sinister experiments and was determined to bring them down. With his resources and Mia's digital prowess, we formed an unlikely alliance, determined to expose the truth and free me from their control. It was a dangerous game we played, moving in the shadows, gathering evidence, and piecing together the conspiracy. Agent Reynolds warned us of the risks, knowing that the organization would stop at nothing to protect its secrets. But we were committed, driven by a shared desire for justice. As we inched closer to the truth, the organization struck back. An attempt on my life made it clear that they would rather eliminate me than let me expose their sinister agenda. But it only fueled my determination to bring them down. The time had come to confront Dr. Larkin and the criminal organization head-on. With Agent Reynolds' support and Mia's unwavering loyalty, we devised a plan to infiltrate their headquarters and put an end to their mind control experiments once and for all. The building, located in a secluded industrial area, loomed before us like a fortress of secrets and lies. As we made our way inside, my heart pounded with a mixture of fear and anticipation. I knew that this confrontation would be the defining moment of my life, a chance to reclaim my freedom and expose the truth. We found Dr. Larkin in his private laboratory, surrounded by high-tech equipment and the eerie silence of a place where unspeakable acts had been committed. His eyes narrowed with surprise and then anger as he realized we weren't there as patients, but as adversaries. "Mr. Davis, I'm disappointed," he said, his voice laced with contempt. "You were supposed to be one of my greatest creations, and yet here you stand, plotting against me." I felt a surge of hatred for the man who had manipulated and controlled me. "You're the one who will fall, Dr. Larkin," I spat back. "Your experiments, your mind control, it all ends here." A struggle ensued, and in the chaos, Agent Reynolds managed to restrain Dr. Larkin while Mia worked to disable the mind control devices that had been implanted in me. It was a desperate bid for freedom, and I felt a mixture of pain and relief as the devices were removed, severing the organization's hold on me. Dr. Larkin, his face twisted with rage, spat out a final threat. "You may have won this battle, but the war isn't over. There are others like me, and we will not let you ruin our plans." "Your answers are not ready, and some of our leaders are dead. Protests do not discourage me, my boy. Your organization is finished, Larkin. We will find the others and put an end to this madness." In the aftermath of the confrontation, I felt a sense of liberation and relief. The mind control devices had been removed, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was truly in control of my body and my destiny. Mia and I, with Agent Reynolds' help, went public with our story, exposing the criminal organization and their sinister agenda. The media frenzy that followed brought much-needed attention to the dark side of the beauty industry and the dangers of extreme cosmetic surgeries. As the truth came to light, a societal shift began to take place. People started questioning the unrealistic beauty standards that had plagued our society for so long. The obsession with perfection was slowly being replaced by a newfound appreciation for individuality and self-acceptance. I, too, underwent a personal transformation. With Mia's unwavering support, I learned to confront my insecurities and embrace my true self. The surgery had changed my appearance, but it was the journey of self-discovery that truly transformed me from the inside out. Agent Reynolds, true to his word, continued his crusade against the criminal organization, rooting out their operations and bringing their members to justice. His relentless pursuit sent a clear message that their actions would not go unpunished. As for Dr. Larkin, he found himself behind bars, his reputation in tatters. The once charismatic surgeon now cut a pathetic figure, a cautionary tale of the dangers of power and obsession. Standing in front of the mirror once again, I smiled at the reflection staring back at me. This time, instead of seeing flaws and imperfections, I saw strength, courage, and a journey of self-acceptance. The scars from the mind control devices served as a reminder of how far I had come and the darkness I had overcome. Mia stood by my side, her hand gently resting on my shoulder. "You're amazing, David," she whispered, her eyes shining with love and pride. Together, we faced our fears and emerged stronger. I nodded, grateful for her unwavering support and the new perspective she had helped me foster. It was a long road, but I'm finally at peace with myself, and I have you to thank for that. As we embraced, I knew that the road to self-acceptance would always be a work in progress, but I was ready to face the challenges ahead. The experience had taught me that true perfection lay not in physical appearance, but in the strength of our character and the love we shared. The dark web of control had been broken, and a new era of self-acceptance and individuality was dawning. Our story, a testament to the power of facing our fears, served as a beacon of hope for a society once obsessed with perfection. And so, with a sense of newfound freedom and purpose, we ventured forward, ready to embrace whatever life had in store.
It was a rainy Friday afternoon when I first stumbled upon the job posting. Bored and a little frustrated with my current freelance work, I was browsing job boards hoping to find something more stimulating. That's when I saw it. A sleek, modern website advertising a remote tech position. The black and white color scheme and minimalist design immediately caught my attention. The website, with its intriguing name, SynTech Recruiters, promised an exciting opportunity for talented individuals seeking a challenge. It spoke of a competitive salary, flexible work hours, and the chance to be part of a cutting-edge team. My curiosity was piqued, and I felt a flutter of excitement in my chest. Could this be the opportunity I'd been waiting for? I clicked through to the application process, my fingers flying across the keyboard as I filled in my personal details and uploaded my resume. The initial stages were standard fare, asking about my education, work experience, and technical skills. But then, things started to get interesting. The first test was a simple coding challenge which I completed with ease. I felt a small sense of satisfaction as I moved on to the next stage. The tasks became more intricate and intriguing, each one designed to assess my lateral thinking, problem-solving abilities, and creativity. I found myself enjoying the challenges, feeling more engaged than I had in a long time. One task involved cracking a simulated encryption code, while another had me analyzing a complex set of data to find hidden patterns. I was in my element, my mind sharp and eager for more. The evaluators remained anonymous, communicating only through the sleek, secure portal, but I didn't mind. The challenges were all the motivation I needed. As I progressed through the application process, the tasks became more intense and less straightforward. One assignment involved infiltrating a simulated secure government database and extracting sensitive information. I felt a thrill of adrenaline as I carefully navigated the simulated security measures, my heart pounding with excitement. Another task took things a step further. I was given the mission to track a target through a busy city using only their mobile phone and public CCTV footage. It felt like something out of a spy movie, and I found myself fully immersed in the challenge. I traced the target's movements, predicting their next steps, and feeling a sense of power as I successfully completed the task. I started to question the nature of this job. The line between legal and illegal seemed to blur, and I wondered if I was involved in some form of corporate espionage. But the thrill of the tasks kept me hooked, and I told myself that big corporations often had their secrets, and this was likely a morally gray but legal tactic to gain an edge over their competitors. The evaluators remained tight-lipped about the specifics of the role, only encouraging me to continue with vague messages of approval. I was determined to see it through, eager to discover what this mysterious job entailed. Little did I know, the true nature of my involvement was far more sinister than I could have ever imagined. One particularly memorable task involved breaking into a simulated power plant's control system and altering settings to cause a simulated city-wide blackout. My heart raced as I considered the potential real-world implications of such an action. But the evaluators praised my skills, and I felt a rush of pride and accomplishment. I was so caught up in the excitement of the challenges that I failed to question why a simple tech job required such potentially dangerous abilities. After weeks of intense challenges, I received a message informing me that I'd been successful. I felt a surge of relief and excitement eager to finally learn more about the company and my new role. But instead of the anticipated induction, I was met with silence. My attempts to log into the sleek portal were met with error messages, and my emails went unanswered. Concerned, I tried to retrace my steps, reviewing the website and the application process. That's when I noticed something strange. The website, which had once seemed so professional and legitimate, had disappeared without a trace. My heart sank as I realized that I had been carefully and skillfully manipulated. Panic started to set in as I considered the implications. Had I been scammed? Had my skills been used for illegal activities without my knowledge? I spent sleepless nights worrying about the potential consequences of my actions. I imagined the police showing up at my door, accusing me of cybercrimes I had no recollection of committing. It was during one of these restless nights that I received an anonymous message. It contained a single link and a cryptic note. Your journey isn't over yet. Log in and embrace your true calling. My curiosity and fear battled within me, but my desire for answers won out. With trembling fingers, I clicked the link. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a video feed, a live stream, and it showed me, or more accurately, it showed my computer's screen and my hands typing furiously at the keyboard. I realized with a sickening lurch that I had been watched the entire time. My challenges, far from being tests for a job, had been entertainment for an anonymous online audience. The chat box on the side of the stream was filled with comments and reactions from unseen viewers. I scrolled through, my eyes widening in horror as I realized the true extent of my entanglement. The viewers weren't just passive observers. They had been participants, guiding my actions and manipulating me like a puppet. Every task I had completed had been directed by these strangers for their own twisted amusement. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal as I processed the revelation. How could I have been so blind? I had willingly participated in what amounted to a sick game, my skills and enthusiasm used against me. I wanted answers, and so I began to investigate, determined to uncover the identities of my tormentors. But the more I probed, the more I realized the depths of the rabbit hole I had fallen into. The stream originated from the dark web, a hidden corner of the internet, where anonymity and encryption reigned supreme. I traced IP addresses and followed digital trails, only to find more layers of obfuscation. It became clear that the people behind this scheme were experts at covering their tracks. As I delved deeper, I discovered that my involvement went far beyond that of a mere player. I was the main attraction, the star of this twisted show. The viewers had placed bets on my actions, reacting with glee to my successes and frustrations. I felt violated and exposed, my privacy invaded in the most intimate way. But something even more disturbing awaited me. As I scrolled through archived chat logs, I realized that my tasks hadn't been random. They had been carefully crafted to not only test my skills, but also to push me toward committing actual crimes. The simulated government database? It had been a real, unauthorized intrusion. The target tracking? I had unknowingly stalked an innocent person, my actions bordering on harassment. The full weight of my actions hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been an unwitting pawn, breaking into secure systems, stealing sensitive data, and invading the privacy of unsuspecting individuals, all for the entertainment of a dark web audience. I felt sick to my stomach, my excitement and pride turning to ash in my mouth. I knew I had to act, and fast. I couldn't let these anonymous manipulators get away with what they had done to me, and potentially to others. I channeled my anger and frustration into action, determined to bring them to justice. I started documenting everything I had discovered, taking screenshots and saving chat logs. I traced IP addresses, followed digital footprints, and built a case against these cyber criminals. It was a daunting task, made more difficult by their elaborate measures to remain anonymous, but I was relentless, using my own technical skills to track them down. I reached out to contacts in the cybersecurity community, seeking their help and expertise. Together, we worked to unravel the intricate web of deception. Finally, after weeks of painstaking investigation, I had enough evidence to go to the authorities. I contacted cybercrime units and provided them with the fruits of my investigation. They took my findings seriously, launching their own inquiry into the matter. I felt a small sense of satisfaction, knowing that I had played a crucial role in bringing these criminals to justice. The response from law enforcement was swift and efficient. Raids were conducted, servers were seized, and arrests were made across multiple countries. The game had been run by a distributed network of cyber criminals, each bringing their own twisted talents to the table. But their reign of manipulation and exploitation was over. In the aftermath of the operation, I struggled to come to terms with what had happened. I felt violated and betrayed, my trust in the digital world shaken. I questioned my own judgment and naivete, wondering how I could have been so blind to the true nature of the job application. But amidst the horror and trauma, I also found strength and purpose. I had been a victim, but I refused to let it define me. I used my experience as a catalyst for change, determined to help others avoid falling into similar traps. I started a blog, sharing my story and offering advice on how to spot and avoid online scams and exploitation. My blog resonated with people, and soon I found myself with a growing following. I received messages from individuals thanking me for opening their eyes to the dangers of the dark web and the importance of digital literacy. I became an advocate for online safety, speaking at schools and community events. The media picked up my story, and I found myself in the spotlight, but this time for a positive reason. I used my platform to educate and empower, turning my painful experience into something meaningful. I worked with law enforcement and cybersecurity experts to develop resources and tools to help protect others from falling victim to cyber crimes. As time passed, I healed and grew stronger. I continued to work remotely, using my technical skills for legitimate and ethical purposes. The horror of the SynTech recruiters incident remained with me, a constant reminder of the dark side of the digital world, but it also taught me valuable lessons about resilience, caution, and the power of using my skills for good. Life eventually returned to a sense of normalcy, or so I thought. 1 year after my ordeal, I received another anonymous message, this one different from the rest. It contained a single link and a note. Your true test begins now. Uncover the truth behind the curtain. My curiosity and sense of unease battled within me, but I clicked the link. This time, the video feed showed a different scene. It was a recording of a man, his face hidden in shadow, speaking directly to me. He congratulated me on my accomplishments over the past year, on turning my life around and making a positive impact. But then his tone changed, and he issued a new challenge. He claimed that my journey so far had been a test of my character and abilities, and that I had passed with flying colors. Now he offered me a choice: to join their organization, a secret group of elite individuals who worked behind the scenes to shape the world. He promised power, influence, and the chance to truly make a difference. At first I was furious. How dare they try to recruit me after what they had put me through? But then my curiosity got the better of me. I wanted answers, and so I played along, asking questions and demanding to know who they were and what they truly wanted. The man in the shadows revealed that their organization, which he called the Syndicate, operated in the shadows, influencing governments, corporations, and global events. He claimed that they sought to bring order and control to a chaotic world, and that my skills and resilience made me an ideal candidate for their ranks. I was torn. A part of me wanted to reject their offer outright, to sever all ties with this mysterious and manipulative group. But another part, the part that had relished the challenges and the thrill of discovery, wanted to know more. I decided to play a dangerous game, feigning interest while secretly gathering information to expose them. I feigned acceptance of their offer, expressing my eagerness to learn more about the Syndicate and their operations. In return, they provided me with a series of tests and challenges, each more intricate and morally ambiguous than the last. I walked a fine line, using my skills to gather information while carefully maintaining my cover. I discovered that the Syndicate had eyes and ears in high places, influencing politicians, manipulating stock markets, and controlling the flow of information. They operated in the shadows, pulling the strings of powerful individuals and organizations to further their own agenda. The more I uncovered, the more determined I became to bring them down. Using my technical prowess, I infiltrated their secure systems, uncovering a web of connections and secrets. I learned that they had recruited others like me, individuals with unique skill sets and a penchant for secrecy. Some had joined willingly, seduced by the promise of power, while others had been manipulated and coerced, just as I had been. I gathered evidence, documenting everything I discovered. I worked with a trusted group of cybersecurity experts and law enforcement officials, sharing my findings and planning a strategic strike. We knew that taking down the Syndicate would not be easy, but we were determined to succeed. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. In a carefully coordinated operation, law enforcement agencies across the globe moved in sync, raiding locations and arresting key members of the Syndicate. I watched with a mixture of satisfaction and unease as the organization crumbled, knowing that my actions had played a crucial role. In the aftermath of the Syndicate's downfall, I finally found the closure I had been seeking. The truth had been exposed, and those responsible for exploiting and manipulating innocent people were brought to justice. I felt a sense of peace, knowing that my actions had made the digital world a safer place. But my journey wasn't over. I realized that my unique perspective and experience could make a positive impact. I continued my advocacy work, educating and empowering individuals to protect themselves online. I collaborated with governments and tech companies, helping to develop policies and tools to combat cybercrimes. My story, with its twists and turns, served as a cautionary tale, highlighting the dangers that lurked in the digital realm. But it also inspired others to use their skills for good, to fight against exploitation and manipulation. I found purpose and fulfillment in knowing that my painful experience had paved the way for positive change. And so I moved forward with a renewed sense of determination. The dark web application that had started it all may have been a horrific deception, but it had also set me on a path of self-discovery and purpose. I embraced the power of my skills, using them as a force for good and helping to create a safer, more secure digital world. Life has a way of coming full circle. Years later, I found myself mentoring a group of aspiring cybersecurity professionals. As I shared my story with them, I couldn't help but smile, knowing that my painful beginnings had led me to a place of fulfillment and impact. The dark web application, with its twisted game, had been the catalyst for my journey. It taught me valuable lessons about trust, skepticism, and the importance of ethical boundaries. But ultimately, it showed me that even the darkest beginnings can lead to a brighter future. As I watched my mentees embark on their own paths, I knew that they too would face challenges and make difficult choices, but armed with knowledge, resilience, and a sense of purpose, they would navigate the digital world with confidence and integrity. And so my story concludes. But the journey continues, forever shaping the way we interact with technology and each other in our ever-evolving digital landscape.